Chapter 121. The Race. 6. Modern people in the 21st century have developed immunity by experiencing such diseases frequently, but it would have been truly fatal to people of the past who encountered these things for the first time. Well, of course, we're not 21st century multi-level scammers, so it doesn't matter. There won't be issues like forced sales or hoarding. We deliberately didn't create noticeable steep differentials between ranks. Above all, besides just scamming everyone and running away like a Ponzi scheme, there are also sound and sustainable business models. First of all, we have unlimited resources coming from my farm. And for resources that can't be covered by that, there's Europe. More precisely, there's England. Elizabeth Tudor, Queen of England and CEO of Virginia's luxury goods supply subcontractor, stood in front of the gates of Whitehall Palace. There stood Walter Raleigh, Baron of Roanoke, Saint of London, Ambassador of the New World. Of course, she, being a monarch, didn't come out of the court to the gates just to welcome a mere subject. And Baron Raleigh wasn't foolish enough to summon and dismiss the Queen. He knew that his power and authority came from the Queen. Therefore, the reason she stood there, to be precise, wasn't because Raleigh had summoned her. Many courtiers gathered around her, their mouths agape. They weren't summoned by Raleigh either. So these are the trade goods. This time. Yes, that's right, my queen. They came out because Raleigh couldn't enter the court. More precisely, because what Raleigh had brought couldn't enter the court. These are the trade goods that the Emperor of the New World has bestowed upon me this time. Boxes piled like mountains cast shadows in front of the palace. Everyone could only open and close their mouths, not daring to add any words. Shine Muscat, Black Sapphire and other grapes? They were still sweet and tasty. The popularity of Shine Muscat in England showed no signs of waning. But their fruit, aluminum, is still a precious metal receiving everyone's fervent interest. Being light while having mysterious luster and being durable, it was worthy of everyone's love. But it's a rare material not abundant in quantity. Moreover, it's unfamiliar to many people. Many other trade goods similarly only satisfied demand within England for various reasons. Of course, Elizabeth could raise massive funds from numerous nobles, but such fund flows also only occurred within England. Basically, if England imported a massive amount of luxury goods from Virginia, Virginia would then purchase coffee or other various items from England in return. In this structure, the only one who saw a clear surplus was Elizabeth, who conducted a kind of intermediary trade between her country's nobles and Virginia. Looking at the English national community as a whole, they could barely balance their trade. However, fur is different. Coral and various jewels are different. They don't rot or soften like fruit, nor are they too scarce or unfamiliar like aluminum. In other words, they are luxury goods that can be distributed throughout Europe. They are luxury goods that can make all of England wealthy. And such items were piled like mountains. These items here are not all. This time, our brave and bold Englishmen established more trading posts and traded resources from all over His Majesty the Emperor's territory. This is the result. As Raleigh shouted his predetermined speech, amidst everyone's astonishment, Elizabeth gestured toward Raleigh. Baron of Roanoke. Yes, your Majesty. Come here, my loyal subject. After several ceremonial flattery and cheers were exchanged, the two met again in a deep, private place in the palace. Very excellent. The Queen sharply smiled as she stroked the furs Raleigh had brought as representatives with her wrinkled hands. The quality is very high and the colors are good. They can compete without issue against those of the Russians. That's right. Most of the items we've brought this time maintain this level of quality, so nobles from all over Europe will rush in. What has created such results? What has changed the Emperor's mind? Has the Emperor suddenly needed more resources? Or is it that the steady increase in trade by the English is finally bearing fruit? Elizabeth raises a finger to point at the furs Raleigh has brought. Both the quantity and quality are clearly different from before, aren't they? What story could there be for this to happen? For a moment, Raleigh's mind becomes complicated. Diamond? Gold? ruby, bronze. How should I explain this? The emperor has conquered territory several times larger than England and obtained more tribute. Indeed, it seems the ironworks have been helpful. Truly so. Your Majesty's foresight shines again here. It's true that they've been helpful. After all, we could gift various utensils to the natives with the iron produced from those ironworks. Raleigh awkwardly nods as he watches Elizabeth's satisfied, smiling face. Perhaps in the Queen's mind, she was imagining that strong emperor who directly defeated the Spanish army taking control of North America. Raleigh also imagined Nemo holding a crying saw directly and slaughtering enemies, but soon shook his head to clear his thoughts. Anyway, now wasn't the time for this. The Queen holds Raleigh's hand, quietly smiles, and closes the door. Walt, without your help, it would have been difficult to give those Spanish ones such a hard time in the New World. For now, let's enjoy the banquet and relieve our feelings. Your Majesty, I think I need to return. As a surprised Elizabeth tilts her head, Raleigh says, I have urgent matters.
I'm sorry.
As Raleigh hurriedly left, Elizabeth could only blankly watch his back. Until 3 months had passed, Elizabeth didn't know why Raleigh was leaving England without even taking a breath. Huff, huff, Your Majesty, here are the newly arrived furs. Are right now the items needed in Virginia: glass beads, iron axes, cats. And 3 months later, 3 times the amount of fur he first saw was released into the country. And the country's glassmakers and blacksmiths began to cheer and scream at the influx of orders. No, all the glass and various miscellaneous goods in the country were being sucked toward the New World. It was definitely not an amount that the English people there could all use. Elizabeth realized that something strange was happening. Chapter 122. Birth of an Empire 1. A serious atmosphere, a large North American map attached to one wall. It was a map showing the territories of Native Americans spread across North America, from the Pennacook and Mi'kmaq tribes in the east to the Navajo and Shoshone tribes in the west, and colored pencils placed in front of it. Mr. Hewitt, please give me the tablet that Vicente left behind. Here it is. So I turn on the tablet at one side of the desk and open the catalog at the other side. As I opened the catalog, a list was written there. It was a list of North American indigenous tribes. Fortunately, not only the modern names but also the names they called themselves were all listed. I could easily compare and contrast them with the tribal names on the tablet. Eleanor, please pin the places I'm about to mention.
Understood.
Mikak. Mikak. Here it is. Pacomok, Manikin, Wicomico, Lenape, Mohican. Wait a moment. Ottawa, Mississauga, Petun, Wendat, Mohawk. Please speak a bit more slowly. I can't. We have at least dozens of indigenous tribes under our command now, and if I adjust the pace while speaking, it will take all day. Anyway, as Eleanor moved to pin various locations on the map as I called them, slowly, the outline appeared. The outline of the areas that newly came under our influence. Nemo? Is this correct? It is, Eleanor. Among the natives of this region, tribes with sufficient productivity to maintain a settled life are rare. Most at best practice slash-and-burn agriculture combined with hunting and gathering, so inevitably they lead a nomadic life, and as a result the concept of owning land is weak. Even so, well, if it's land where tribes belonging to our sphere of influence live, it could be considered our territory. The roughly marked area was approximately North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. Thus, of the original 13 American colonies, roughly 11 coastal states excluding Georgia and South Carolina, plus the coasts of the Labrador Peninsula, Newfoundland Island, Nova Scotia Island, the Great Lakes region, and so on. That was our territory. Of course, we don't actually govern these regions. Just a little away from the coast, our influence probably wouldn't properly reach. At most, the natives in the area are taking a stance like, yeah, Nemo is our grand chief. So give us those damn iron axes and cute cats. Gee good heavens. Even considering that, it's unbelievably vast enough to make Eleanor unable to close her mouth. That entire area has been co-opted into our multi-level marketing. Although I called it multi-level marketing, in the end, we're not unilaterally selling things to the natives, so it's just an intermediary trade network. Like Mon**T Hunter that exploded in popularity in the early 2010s, there are just a few bonuses given when friends are recommended. So we're taking products from the eastern coast and the entire Great Lakes region of North America and selling them to England. England then gives us glass beads and various castings and other products to meet the demands of Virginia and the natives within its sphere of influence. Several ships are constantly traveling back and forth across the eastern America, carrying various items from land several times larger than England. And even now, natives are probably expanding that territory by holding active promotional events towards surrounding tribes, saying, "This is called network marketing." Well, no wonder Vicente and Raleigh are busy. This, with the two of them responsible for the major route connecting the Native Americans of eastern North America, Virginia, England, they can't help but be insanely busy. I should treat them well when they return. == 300 glass beads to be sent to the northeast, 50 iron axes, 120 cats, 200 daggers, blankets. Excuse me, are you all right?
I'm fine.
450 glass beads to be sent to the Great Lakes region, 150 iron axes, 200 cats. Baron, are you really all right? I said I'm fine, Thomas. Raleigh shouts once at Harriet, then moves his fingers again. Numbers were fluctuating on the Excel file in front of him. Where was I counting, Vicente? You were counting the number of cats to be sent to the Great Lakes region. Thank you. TSK. Thomas, I almost forgot because you spoke to me. What are you doing? In response to Raleigh's question, Harriet silently drags a mirror to his front, then holds his head and makes him face it. Then in the mirror, a man who is energetic enough to oversee the development of the New World, passionate enough to participate directly in numerous battles, romantic and charming enough to capture the Queen's heart, had disappeared without a trace. Who is this? It's you. Was this a mirror, not a portrait? The once energetic 20-something young man who stood by the Queen's side had now turned 47. But that was secondary. First, with dark shadows under both eyes and fingertips trembling from fatigue, he looked exactly like a sick person. The whites of his eyes were bloodshot with prominent capillaries, and neither his beard nor hair was properly groomed, making him look like some lion. Did I go before Her Majesty the Queen looking like this? As Raleigh presses his temples due to a suddenly rising headache, Harriet laughs hollowly and says, "Why are you so shocked? Have you lived for days without looking in a mirror?"
No.
What need is there to look in a mirror and primp on a ship? It's all just dark-skinned men. That's right. Besides, aren't we handling holy duties? That's right. Vicente's words are correct, Thomas. We are devoting ourselves to resolving resource shortages in the New World and expanding his domain as Nemo instructed. Mr. Harriet, don't scold the Baron too much. When doing great work, sometimes one has to temporarily sacrifice one's well-being. He must have a grand plan. Oh, is this a picture of a sick person? This is also you, Vicente. Do you all remember when you last slept? 2 days ago? It was 3 days ago. Oh, if you don't want your epitaph to simply say, "Oh," go to sleep right now. Vicente, the same goes for you. Though he wanted to refute, Raleigh lost his words because the figures in the mirror were so miserable. Chapter 123, Birth of an Empire 2. Looking to the side, Vicente was continuing to refute Harriet but was completely defeated and returned to his cabin. And Harriet glares at Raleigh. Raleigh had conducted 2 voyages in succession, and during the voyages, He had poured his energy into organizing gifts received from natives and trade goods obtained from England. Ah, somehow my head feels a bit dizzy, and he's half dying. My head feels a bit dizzy? Is that all you have to say? No, but didn't Nemo entrust me with an important duty? There must be some reason for that, and if I approach it lazily, or perhaps it's because you happen to be near him, so he entrusted you with trade-related duties.
Flop.
What are you doing? Cough, cough, kururu. As soon as Harriet covers Raleigh's shoulders with a blanket, Raleigh collapses and falls asleep. Now in the room, there was one tablet, one laptop, and only one person still awake. Harriet sighs, moves the chair Raleigh was sitting on to the side, and sits at the desk himself to continue the work. After roughly organizing the accounts, he finally gets some leeway after having the sailors move Baron Raleigh to bed. Harriet rises to the deck, hearing the crackling sound of his turning waist. As the sun rises from the east, looking at the opposite side, land gradually appears over the horizon. They had arrived in Virginia. Are these corpses? You look terrible. Take care of your body first, Walter. The same goes for you, Vicente. I'm sorry. Not at all. The system isn't properly established yet, so you had to overwork in the beginning. We should be the ones apologizing. That. For now, both Walter and Vicente, please rest in Chesapeake while only handling office work, and sleep for more than 8 hours. Seeing the two staggering out, it became even more certain. As I just said, we need to establish a system. We should have developed in the French style. Everyone, what do you think about establishing trading posts in various regions? Let's try going the French way then. At my words, everyone else nods and agrees. It seemed they had all thought about the need for people permanently stationed to manage trade. It would be perfect to scatter 10 to 20 people in various places and assign them duties of managing intertribal resource distribution, multi-level system management, and logistics. Just as it was about to pass like that, Hewitt raises his hand. Excuse me, I have something to say. Yes, Mr. Hewitt. Please speak. Well, how do you plan to find volunteers? If we say we'll give priority supply of luxury goods coming from England, there will be many who'd come. That's true, but first of all, the people who go there won't be able to have proper faith life, right? Will everyone want to go? That's also true. It was the 16th century, a time when religion played a large part in life. Especially in our community where religious authority operates greatly, everyone, whether European, native, or African, is enthusiastic about church life. Well, then, Mr. Hewitt, please select quiet and trustworthy people. Wouldn't it be good to have one such person in each place? Quiet and trustworthy people? You're saying I should select them? Yes, so as not to instill hostility about our faith among the surrounding natives. That's right. If they're not quiet, they might cut down and burn sacred trees in the name of missionary work to the surrounding natives. It would be good if they could do paperwork decently too. They'll have to handle trade and logistics-related duties after all. I understand. I'll select about 30 people, including a few young people I've taught theology to. Good. And it would be nice if Mr. Hewitt or someone else could supervise them. Supervise, Bishop? Yes, Bishop it is. You never know. A church in a remote place, a mad clergyman. I've seen it often in horror movies. There needs to be a bishop. With the trading post issue resolved. Seeing the Baron's condition made me think of this. Mr. White, do you have something to say? These days, as the cultivated land in our settlement expands, the agricultural equipment knights seem to be struggling going back and forth. There are also issues with the activity radius of tractors overlapping. Now a problem with our settlement has been raised. The jurisdiction of agricultural equipment knights. Then we should place agricultural equipment knights, tractors, and technicians who will repair and inspect the tractors in various locations. That's right. That's an issue of placing tractors and agricultural equipment knights in various places, right? Like trading posts. But how should this be operated? Like an agricultural equipment rental place? Or like a regional agricultural cooperative? Really like some agricultural cooperative? AC? Agricultural cooperative? Flinch. What's wrong, Mr. White? Ah, nothing. So you mean establishing headquarters for the Agricultural Equipment Night Brigade in various places. It's a bit grand to call it a Night Brigade headquarters. But yes, while we're at it, it would be good to equip them with appropriate warehouses and various equipment. I understand. Let's proceed that way. Well, the problem seems to be roughly resolved. Now, after throwing some encouragement for everyone to handle things well, today's work was over. There was a lot of work today. Should I grill a steak for the first time in a while? Aren't you all leaving? We need to organize the conclusions of the meeting a bit before leaving. Weren't there many topics raised? I feel sorry, as if I've given you homework. They're trying to run this community on their own without me having to direct everything one by one. Somehow, feels heartwarming. I believe everyone will do well. Click. ==. After Nemo left. Finally, did he say to dispatch clergy to various places? Those who can do paperwork. That's right. It didn't seem like just talking about simple missionaries. Is my understanding correct? It must be Mrs. Dare. My goodness, Lord, my goodness. The meeting room was in chaos. People opened their mouths one by one. There are clergy in various places, and he's placing supervisors, bishops, too? Isn't that exactly like bishops or priests? I was wondering what to call them, and that fits perfectly. Priests and bishops. Father? What do you think, Father? A.C. What does that mean? What is it an abbreviation for? Father. Ah, nothing. I was thinking about something else. I was pondering what he meant. Since it's the headquarters of the Agricultural Equipment Night Brigade, isn't it an abbreviation for Agricultural Citadel? Citadel. Indeed, that must be it. Bishop, Citadel. So they wrote down Nemo's words, organizing them well. Since they seemed like very important stories, they underlined them several times. Chapter 124. Great Spirit 1. There was an issue that deeply resonated with me from our last meeting. Recently, as the farmland in our settlement has expanded, the agricultural equipment nights seem to be struggling as they travel back and forth. There are also problems with tractors having overlapping operational areas. I feel the same way. When I drive the porter truck around and operate the cultivator, I often find that the sun has already set by the time I finish my work. With farmland all around and no proper accommodations, I often had no choice but to sleep in the second row of seats in the porter truck. In summer, I'd sleep in the porter with the air conditioning on, and in winter, I'd pitch a tent next to a field and sleep with a heater and circulator running. In other words, I was homeless quite often, without a shower or toilet in the tent. Repeating this for several days made it hard to maintain a decent appearance. This is obviously a problem. I mean, I'm supposedly an angel, not really. So I shouldn't be walking among the faithful looking so grimy, right? Still, I tried my best. After several consecutive days of work, I'd go to a nearby stream with soap and vigorously scrub my face. Of course, I couldn't properly hide things like the bird's nest, that was my hair. But even that level of hygiene put me in the top 1% by 16th century standards. Anyway, even setting all that aside, I really didn't want to sleep under the stars if I could avoid it. That's only natural. I mean, I'm someone who transported an entire house to the 16th century. Going from living in a home with air conditioning, a shower booth, and a robot vacuum cleaner to sleeping outdoors covered in dew is quite the ascetic practice. Anyway, my point is that I need somewhere to stay when I'm out. But there's a limit to making do with the tent and various camping equipment from my house. I can't always set up a tent, have a romantic time staring at the fire, and grill meat after finishing work late. Can I? After work, I just want to collapse onto a bed without thinking. Conclusion. I don't want to sleep in the back seat of the car. The bed is uncomfortable, and when you park with the air conditioner or heater running, their performance drops, making it too hot or cold. I don't like tents either. They're romantic, but setting them up and taking them down might be fun once or twice. After that, it becomes a chore. Not to mention they're insanely hot in summer. Kin Issei, after 11 years away from Japan, you've completely adapted to the mild climate of North Carolina and Virginia. But what can I do? Hot is hot and cold is cold. Anyway, if cars are uncomfortable and tents are a hassle, there's only one answer. A house.
O campervan.
But one I can carry around. After seeing my tent fly away in the wind during my 14th business trip, I stopped hesitating. I immediately returned to Crotone and stripped out all the household items. I definitely need air conditioning and heating. Fortunately, my house was full of heating and cooling appliances. For some reason, people living in cities, especially in apartments, probably wouldn't understand this. People like my parents, who ambitiously build countryside houses in unfamiliar areas after deciding to return to farming, often make one common mistake. This happens because they're accustomed to apartments, the representative living space in Japan for decades. Apartments have overwhelmingly better insulation compared to countryside houses. That's because the homes in front, beside, and behind your apartment all serve as your insulation. As a result, many people design countryside houses with a soft, "this should be good enough" attitude, only to suffer later. In a countryside house, each room needs its own air conditioner and heating appliance, because there's no neighboring house to block the cold in your room. Among the poorly insulated rooms in our house, which was modeled after Green Gables, there was the second-floor room where an of Green Gables might have lived. Not on the first floor, but a room connected to the second-floor front window. A really inconvenient place to access. In other words, the room that became a storage space after my parents abandoned this house and farmed to me, formerly my mother's room. I removed the window air conditioner that had been stashed away there and measured its dimensions. Good. This is essential. Due to space limitations, I installed the window air conditioner on the ceiling. I made sure it could be covered with a lid on rainy days. I had plans for the rest of the space. First, the plan was simple. I don't like feeling cramped, so, except for when I'm sleeping, I designed it to maximize the use of external space. The walls on both sides would be storage exposed to the outside, with a bed installed in the center space. Then I'd create one window each in the wall and ceiling, installing the window air conditioner on one side and covering the rest with transparent polycarbonate panels. Finally, I'd place an electric heated mat on the floor to complete the sleeping area. Once the space design was finalized, I began the actual construction. First, I decided to use fairly dark-colored wood, utilizing leftover materials that were originally meant for shipbuilding. I applied oil stain to the wood and then varnish to prevent mold or deterioration. This deepened the wood's color and brought out the grain. While drying those boards, I assembled a wooden frame on top of the porter. Next, I divided the storage compartments to be placed on both sides of the bed. I planned to set up the left side as a kitchen space and the right side as a workspace. On the left, I partitioned the space to accommodate a workbench, cutting board, kitchen knife, grater, spatula, gas stove, etc., then cut and assembled the boards accordingly. On the right, I installed large cabinets, primarily to store not just tools but also their batteries. While my electronic devices like tablets recharge every 24 hours, tools often discharge before those 24 hours are up. So with the feeling of organizing a large toolbox, I hammered nails into the wall and pushed in the toolbox, and all the tools fit perfectly according to the measurements. Oh, that just felt extremely satisfying. Seeing items fit perfectly into the storage compartments I designed myself is fantastic. And with that, it was reasonably complete. On top of the porter was a blackish-brown wooden box filled with kitchen utensils and tools, with a bed nestled in between. When I tried sleeping in it as a test, I felt like stars were pouring through the skylight. When I woke up, sunlight was seeping through the skylight gap. It was morning. I came outside, assembled the camping shower booth I had stored in the kitchen area, and washed up. As I finished, I heard footsteps in the distance. As I put on my clothes and turned my head, "Oh, Mr. Nemo?" It was Raleigh. He looked less worn out than the last time I saw him, so he must have gotten some rest.
Ah, Walter?
I just finished building this mobile home. Good timing. Yes, the carpenters lingering around here told me you would be here. Ah, I did receive their help. What brings you here? That's complicated to explain. This might take a while. Huh? That is, Vicente and I seem to have made a big mistake. No, strictly speaking, since I'm the one in charge, the responsibility is mine as well. Raleigh seemed uneasy for some reason. He also looked a bit embarrassed and somewhat urgent. In situations like this, I've learned what to do through experience. Anyway, I need to tell you, I was hesitating because you might find it awkward, but it's an urgent matter that needs to be conveyed. Walter, don't be too hasty. Pardon. Seeing Raleigh's still slightly bloodshot eyes moving frantically, I quietly unfolded the nearby workbench/dining table and assembled 2 folding chairs. Let's sit down and have some coffee first. And then, with a gentle smile that wasn't too intimidating, I said, What? But did this happen during the voyage? Technically, yes. Then even if we try to resolve it, it will take several months. I took out the coffee machine and poured oil into the gasoline generator that each farm has, then plugged in the cord. We have time for a cup of coffee in the meantime. While Raleigh hesitated, I had already finished making the coffee and sat down, offering him a chair. Raleigh carefully leaned back in the chair and picked up the coffee cup on the table. Ah! Now Raleigh's face showed a bit more warmth. I could feel his tone soften and his expression relax. As his tension eased somewhat, he looked out through the open door and began speaking. Actually, new tribes joining the trade want to meet you, Mr. Nemo. Me? Ahem. Yes. What's this about? A multi-level marketing guest speaker? Or a commemorative lecture for the CEO's visit? Why do they specifically want to see me? Well, from the natives' perspective, they're curious about how this great chief, whom they've never seen, can possess such enormous wealth. That's right, a multi-level marketing guest speaker. And? As I tilted my head in confusion, Raleigh sighed and said, The situation is a bit complicated. In the early days of the multi-level scheme, Raleigh and Vicente worked hard to expand trade. You people who came from across the sea, I've seen your kind many times before. Most come offering to trade goods. But now the 16th century is fading, and the sun of the 17th century is about to rise. Many natives have already encountered European merchants and explorers clustered around this area. So while they might find it somewhat curious to see natives and Europeans from across the sea mixing together, the appearance of Virginians itself didn't make much of an impression in many cases. But you all are different. However, everything changed when the Virginians brought out their goods. You people truly know how to gift. You're a tribe that knows courtesy. The Virginians understood gifts.
Plus.
To give so many iron axes, that's also surprising. Chapter 125, Great Spirit, 2. The Virginians were much more generous in their offerings. Of course, this was possible because they were on the same continent and had clippers that reduced distribution costs, but the natives didn't need to know that. What mattered was whether it was worth trading exclusively with Virginia, setting aside all trade with Europeans. Good. I am now a subject of this Nemo. We will serve him as our great chief, and may he in turn look after us. Thank you, great chief. Thank you. The answer was yes. But it's not always just the answer to an important question that people become curious about. But how wealthy is your great chief to possess all these things? Ah, that. Where does all this wealth come from? The leader of a peculiar group commanding both Europeans from across the sea and coastal residents. A being clutching endless, overflowing wealth. Moreover, a great chief is not normally such an impressive figure. But to the natives, Vicente and Raleigh seemed to worship their great chief. All these aspects aroused the curiosity of the natives. After much deliberation, Vicente and Raleigh finally agreed to coordinate their stories and decided to say, He is a kind of powerful spirit. He serves the most powerful god in the world. Ha! He wields a howling blade to defeat enemies and drives steel machines to cultivate the land. Does that explain it? No. Tell me more. When briefly asked, more questions they couldn't resist came up. Thus, this chief heard rumors about the Undying One. And he proceeded to another tribe to introduce the innovative distribution method he had been given. What brings you here? Haven't you heard the rumors? About Nemo.
Ne. Montag.
Oh, it's pitiful that you remain ignorant. Our tribe is already at Ruby level, so I must help raise your rank first. Ruby? Rank? What's all this suddenly? Explain. That's basically it. So by serving this great Chief Nemo, spreading his story to other tribes, and exchanging gifts, you receive special items? Yes, like this. Crack. This axe that I obtained. My goodness. Impressive, isn't it? Rumor has it that all the tribes in this area, no, along the entire eastern coast, are already participating in the gathering. You should join quickly. No. How does this great chief distribute wealth to so many tribes? I should hear more. They say he's a spirit. What? That doesn't make any. Wielding a howling blade with sharp teeth embedded all around, defeating countless enemies. Doesn't that make sense? He must have conquered many tribes and seized their wealth. This newly joined chief remembered the Undying One, the one who wields the howling blade. Anyway, the newly joined chief headed to the lands of another tribe and repeated the same process. How? What's left after giving away so much? How wealthy is this Nemo? Where do these axes come from? Surely this isn't a lie. What? Are you doubting me? Well, it is suspicious, isn't it? I'm just asking. They say he's a spirit. Are you mad? No. Wielding a howling blade. Is it similar to this sharp axe? Still, it's not very convincing. He is said to be immortal. As a spirit, he lives eternally. Well, that makes sense. And that howling blade, did they say it had iron teeth? Or was it that his own teeth grew? Thus, the Undying One, the one who wields the howling blade, acquired a new nickname. The one with steel teeth. How can a person have such teeth? I'm telling you, he's not a person. He must be a mighty spirit, probably the size of a house-sized beast. A house-sized beast as great chief? You should say something that makes sense. Then can you otherwise explain how one person can be so wealthy? Well, that's true. They say he's a spirit who conquered numerous tribes and slaughtered countless lives, creating rivers with blood. So, wielding the howling blade, when he waves the light in his hand, lives perish instantly. This axe is made by grinding down his house-sized teeth. That's why they're endlessly available. Then do his teeth continue to grow? Perhaps? I guess so. That's what I heard. And so the rumors continued to grow. Believe in Mr. Nemo. He will give you many gifts. Your name was Raleigh, right? I've already heard rumors about him. Is that so? That's fortunate. Then, does he really have hundreds of teeth? Pardon. The rumor returns to Raleigh. Not long after the rumors returned to Raleigh, trading posts and cathedrals were built throughout the area. What's this? This is something like your sacred place. Sacred place? So is this Nemo spirit worshipped here too? We don't worship him. We can honor him somewhat. Where are you going? After briefly leaving and returning, the natives were covered in blood, carrying something. What is that? The priest pointed at the blood-covered man who had blood, meat, and entrails stuck all over his body. Anyone could see that he had just been in a fierce battle. Dear meat and blood. Pardon. Step aside now. We must also offer sacrifices to the spirit named Nemo. And so a fire broke out. The priest fainted. I'm not sure exactly what went wrong, but strange rumors have spread that Mr. Nemo is some kind of monster. The natives believing that in itself isn't much of an issue, but later when we built trading posts and cathedrals, people gathered in front saying, "Let's offer sacrifices to the Great Spirit." Skilled pastors might have handled it appropriately, but most of the priest candidates selected this time were too surprised to know what to do. I'm not sure if I should be glad they came without us specifically doing missionary work. I'm just purely curious, but have you actually sent prophecies through native shamans saying, "I will eat you if you don't offer sacrifices"? Of course not. I see. Now I understand why Raleigh is so alarmed. It's idol worship. No, well, anyway, that's why many people want to meet Mr. Nemo, the great monster and great spirit. Mr. Nemo? Well, okay. This is disconcerting. Is that so? It's nothing serious then. I answered, trying not to show my confusion. Though it may not seem like it, our Raleigh is a very devout person. Although he does engage in various unchristian activities as the Queen's bedchamber partner, he's still a devout Christian. To someone like him, the issue of idol worship might have seemed serious. I get it. Mr. Nemo? I think it would be best to consider what to do first. For now. What would you think if I went to see them? Pardon. Isn't it something we'll have to do eventually? It would be good to solidify our influence by traveling to each region. And clear up misunderstandings too. Raleigh nodded as if he would consider it, and I turned my head to look at the camper I had built. I didn't expect to start using it in earnest so soon. Chapter 126. Great Spirit 3. Here is a tribal chief. Let's call him Chief AA of Tribe A. Chief AA is in a great mood after receiving various gifts from a man named Walter Raleigh, who recently came from across the sea. Getting iron axes, glass beads, and blankets was nice, but what really made the difference was obtaining an incredibly cute animal called a cat. Oh, this little one eats meat? It eats fish really well too. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. The family relationships that had become somewhat distant also improved with the cat as a mediator. The tribe members also gained benefits, such as hunting more diligently because they wanted to feed the cat. But the cat's greatest advantage lay elsewhere. It is unbelievably adorable. Meow meow, you rascal. How dare you pull daddy's beard? Meow. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. You rascal. Never go outside the village. You never know when fierce beasts might carry you away. It looks like a male cat, but he wants to bring a female cat to raise together. He became curious about what this creature's offspring would look like. As soon as AA expressed this opinion at the tribal council, everyone agreed that Tribe A would request more cats. And when the next ship arrived, AA and various shamans from Tribe A came forward to petition. Vicente Gonzalez, was it? Please bring more cats to our tribe. If you send just 3 more female cats, we'll repay you with much more fur. I'm sorry, but your tribe's rank is not high enough for 3 cats yet. What did you say? There are many tribes who want to raise cats. For now, as I mentioned last time, be especially careful in managing the cat you already have. There are already dozens of tribes who have lost their cats to wolves or other predators. Look here. Don't you feel sorry for this fellow searching for a mate? Meow. I'm sorry, but their love was sadly blocked by limitations. It was because of the absurd reason that their tribe's rank was still only at the silver level. This cannot be. Is this man Nemo saying he doesn't even feel sorry for the meow meow? It's so pitiful to hear the little one crying every night. We must find it a mate somehow. Unfortunately, Tribe A didn't have many allied tribes due to their belligerence. It so happened that there were many tribes of different ancestries gathered nearby. Please, just this once. Serve the same great chief as us. Bah! Wasn't it your uncle who split my father's head? Get lost. Ugh! After AA and others traveled around for several days, they still couldn't find an answer. Why won't they accept? Even if they hate us, our gifts were certainly luxurious. I suppose it's because our relationship has been poor. Besides, nobody has heard of this great chief named Nemo, have they? At most, only a few coastal tribes might have heard of him. We need to let them know how wealthy and great he is. Is that so? According to rumors, he personally wielded a howling iron club to cut down enemies. If we tell them why he is wealthy, they won't be able to ignore our words. From what I heard, the great chief is not human. Some kind of spirit. I heard that too. Are his teeth as hard as that axe? No, I heard that the axe was made by grinding down his teeth. Are you saying he's some kind of enormous monster? Perhaps. It makes you wonder how he could be so wealthy. The members of Tribe A glanced at each other. It felt questionable. And the pitiful crying of the cat from outside could also be heard. In that instant, anxiety and fear about the future were washed away. They had to find a mate for that child. I'll go to the surrounding tribes once more. Chief, I need to emphasize his power. Once they know how terrifying a spirit who rules the entire coast is, they won't be able to ignore us. And then their tribe could rise to gold rank. Finally, their cat would get a mate. So AA went around to the surrounding tribes again and said, "It's difficult for us to bear his wrath. When his heart is filled with anger, his warriors will. Let's stop here. He is certainly not human. He is as tall as that tree. His gaze is as cold as the moon. Do you know how much wealth he has? This beast is just a small part of it. Look, isn't it cute? Meow. If I get more of these cute beasts, I'll give you one as a gift." And so, after great effort, Tribe A rose to ruby rank in the next quarter and was counted among the excellent tribes. They say the spirit called Nemo does not die even if killed. I heard Nemo has hundreds of teeth, and each tooth is as big as an axe. Don't be too afraid. He's a kind monster who gives gifts to his subjects. Except when he's angry. The strange rumors that spread around had already passed the point of no return. I've heard about cases like this secondhand. I don't remember the tribe's name, but it must have happened near the territory of the Powhatan Confederation. I put my hand to my forehead. So that's why the rumors spread in such strange ways. It wasn't just accidental distortion. There was clear intent behind it. Come to think of it, when I was young, I too wished my dad was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Perhaps it's human nature to want the being you follow to be strong and great. But that doesn't mean I want to become a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Of course not. I'm also a human. Isn't it too much to expect of a normal person who just happens to be immortal with a built-in universal translator in their head? Anyway, to clarify the facts and prevent further rumors, I need to go out myself. That hasn't changed. Sighing, I secretly glanced at the tablet placed in front of me. Then I asked Raleigh, "Walter, do you have time?" Mr. Nemo. Is the ship being prepared well? Of course. The modifications will be completed within 2 months. That's necessary if we're to carry the porter and carts. It will be a long journey of thousands of kilometers. We'll travel by ship along the coast, and occasionally move by land. We needed a ship that could carry the porter and carts for those times. On the ship designed by Raleigh, we will meet tribes that might become our members, or perhaps could already be considered as having joined us, and check on their conditions. And I need to convince them slowly while promoting myself as an ordinary human. No, as an angel, but I'm not sure how to do that. Should I shed blood, as was commonly done throughout history? No. The wound would heal within 10 seconds, which would be even stranger. Anyway, let's think about that later. There are other important matters. Since I'll be away for several months, I need to think about how the settlement will fare during that time and how it should be managed. Knock knock. Who? It's probably Mr. Hewitt and Mr. White. Mr. Hewitt seems to want to ask about population management after we leave. I called Mr. White. The door swung open. Mr. Nemo, would it be all right to entrust the tablet to others? With Baron Raleigh, Mr. Harriet, Mr. Gonzalez, and Manteo all leaving, I'm concerned that work won't progress properly. As expected. Chapter 127. Great Spirit. 4. I seated Hewitt and offered him a coffee cup. Of course, but be careful. Only entrust it to reliable people, and make sure to keep records of who modified what and when in Excel. I understand. I'll keep that in mind. But when you say reliable people, exactly who? I've prepared for this. I pulled out a pre-printed table from under the desk and handed it to him. Here, Mr. Hewitt. I've selected some people from the residents of Croton Island who are reasonably literate and trustworthy. Choose a few people from this list. Ah, thank you. I'll follow your instructions. You really must be careful. If there are any Spanish spies, our settler list would be what they'd most want to get their hands on. I'll keep that in mind. And are there any special instructions before you leave? Ah, yes. Trade with England must be maintained as before. Walter will leave some sailors behind, so have them sail for England around February, May, and September. I'll remember that. Finally, let's consider trade with the French. Pardon. Elizabeth's death date is March 24th, 1603. The day when England's political situation changes is not far off. Consider the trading post establishment that the French requested. And, Manteo? Yes, Mr. Nemo. Help Mr. Hewitt find a suitable island for establishing a trading post in Pamlico Sound. I understand. Good. I can leave the document Excel work and settlement external business management to Hewitt. I slowly turned my gaze from Hewitt to White, meeting his eyes. He seemed curious about why he was called. Mr. White, how many agricultural equipment knights have been trained to drive tractors now? Ah, about 35 people. 35 people. We currently have 9 tractors, and thinking about how many more will be produced by the time I return. I hope that number will increase to 50 by the time I return. 50 people. This number included reserve personnel and those who would operate the tractors in shifts. As White took out his notebook and started writing down my words, I slowed my speaking pace appropriately. Now that we have a sufficient number of tractors, we can slowly start using them for purposes other than clearing wasteland. Do you remember the implements we made last time? Yes, I remember. Don't test newly made implements in other fields if possible. They might ruin the crops. For now, let's test them in my potato field. So I organized the matters I needed to attend to in my head as I spoke to the two. Trade with Europe, and clearing wasteland and training agricultural equipment knights. Managing the population and distributing resources from my mansion. Since it had been a while since I was absent for an extended period, there was much to discuss. And more tasks to delegate. All right. There was still a second or third best-selling export item in the trade with England. Mr. Hewitt was this season's vineyard keeper at Croton Island. Ambrose Vicus. Yes, that's correct. He should be inspecting house number 3 now. Please call him. Pardon. I have some advice regarding grape cultivation. People shouldn't forget their identity. Shortly after Hewitt left, the tablet screen showed 2 people. When I gestured, White, who was standing nearby, opened the door. 2 people walking from a distance saw the open door and quickened their pace to enter the farm shed used as a meeting room. Come in. He is waiting for you. Ah, I understood. The vineyard keeper, who seemed quite intimidated, walked up to me. We usually select vineyard keepers from among those living nearby. Then we provide training related to agricultural equipment and entrust them with managing nearby vineyards. I'd like to do it all myself, but since I've become the leader of this community, I can't help it. You called for me? Ambrose, are you the one currently managing the vineyard at my farm? Yes. What about? You've been managing it excellently so far. I was particularly pleased to see your consistent water management. Thank you. However, your enthusiasm seems slightly excessive. Pardon. At my words, The vineyard keeper made a strange expression and looked around at Hewitt and others. Seeing him tense up, I moved closer, offered him a seat, and sat across from him, offering tea. After all, many people get nervous around me. I knew how to ease this level of tension. Don't worry, you're already doing a fine job. I'm quite satisfied from what I've seen.
I am honored.
I'll give you some advice now, so please remember it. If you follow my advice well, you might end up managing all the vineyards on Croton Island. Ah! And I quietly continued my explanation. First, there seems to have been an improper handover. It's not critical, but don't fertilize the grapevines yet. The temperature will soon drop, and if the trees are in the middle of growth, they could suffer frost damage. Is that so? Yes. Just yesterday, weren't you lingering in front of the fertilizer bags? That part seemed to confuse you a lot, so ask the person who was the vineyard keeper last season. That will make your work easier. Tach, thank you. However, it's fine after all the leaves have fallen. And when next year comes and the leaves sprout again, you'll need to stop fertilizing during the growing period. I'll write it down. Don't worry, I've already written it down for you. As I handed him a note, the vineyard keeper received it with trembling hands. It contained a brief summary of his poor farming habits, ways to improve, and how to manage moisture and nutrients until next year. Others working with you will tell you more details. Thank you. You may go now, Mr. Hewitt. Please escort Ambrose back. Understood. At my words, Hewitt and vineyard keeper Ambrose Vicus slowly went outside. What else needs to be managed? Nothing urgent. I poured tea for White as well and enjoyed a brief rest. Soon I would need to supervise White's agricultural equipment night's training process, and also check if Raleigh's sailors were causing any trouble. I really do live a busy life. Equals. Very good. It seems he highly regards your diligence. You might be entrusted with important tasks for this community later. Amby, what's wrong? That? How? Vineyard keeper Ambrose Vicus trembled for a moment. Then he slowly read again the note he had received earlier. It detailed habits when applying fertilizer that he himself wasn't aware of, and even considered the amount of water he gave to the grapes. This raised one question. Mr. Hewitt? Earlier, how did he know I was at house number 3? Well, he told us. Then, how did he know? Moreover, how did he notice us as soon as we arrived at the meeting room without us making any noise? He had never visited the vineyard when Ambrose became the vineyard keeper. So how did he know that Ambrose hesitated in front of the fertilizer bags? And how did he know that Ambrose tended to give more water when spreading to the left? Above all, he had already prepared notes summarizing all the questions Ambrose wanted to ask. As he recalled this fact, his body trembled again. What did you say? Hewitt lightly grasped Ambrose's shoulder and tilted his head. How does he know? What do you mean by that? Well, isn't it natural that he knows? It's his farm, isn't it? Pardon. Of course, Hewitt didn't know about the security cameras installed throughout the farm. Nor did he know that Kin Issei being caught by Eleanor while playing Doom had become the catalyst for him to be thorough with locking doors and closely monitoring security cameras. But he could say as if it were obvious. And he is, well, him, isn't he? As Hewitt said this and nodded, Ambrose also nodded as if entranced. Why, yes, you're right. Ambrose examined the note again with a dazed feeling. Ambrose Vicus didn't know that Kin Issei was originally a diligent person by nature. He didn't know where his calm personality and composure that eased tension came from. He couldn't know that his businesslike and calm personality developed through experiencing unemployment due to C*VID, the roller coaster of the Shine Muscat grape boom, and the downfall that came with a mountain of debt. Like others, Ambrose simply accepted it. He's an angel. Because he's an angel, he can know everything, prepare for everything, and predict everything like that, as if someone were showing him the future. Chapter 128. Great Spirit, 5. No, it won't work, Mr. Nemo, but no matter how I look at it, it requires too many resources. First of all, the terrain. The limitations of the terrain can be overcome sufficiently. If you would just reconsider. Given the resources that will be invested in the future, it's better to prepare in advance. And I grabbed Vicente's shoulder and pointed to a ship in the distance that was nearing the end of its modifications. Walter has already prepared a ship for him. Considering his effort, we cannot give up. Is that really so? Of course. I smiled at Vicente and said, "What is the most important aspect of this journey? Isn't it to solidify our influence in various regions and supervise the establishment of trading posts?"
No.
If that were the reason, there would be no need for me to go along. As I slowly shook my head, a question mark seemed to appear on Vicente's face. I opened my mouth again to resolve Vicente's doubt. The most important thing is to make me known. To prevent misunderstandings about me and stop rumors from being expanded and reproduced among themselves. And to prevent such misunderstanding-filled rumors from spreading to Europeans, causing unsettling talk about heresy among the natives. Above all, to make the natives become familiar with me as a being. Many Native Americans speak multiple languages like their native tongues. The same is true for Africans. In societies before the establishment of large nations, societies divided into various tribal communities. Languages are diverse as political unification hasn't been achieved. It's common sense here that different dialects emerge in each village, or even completely different languages are used. In some cases, traveling just a few dozen kilometers can bring you to people who speak a completely different language family. As such, most natives know how to learn various dialects and speak different languages, if only for survival. In other words, the effect of directly facing them myself is that much greater. While those like Manteo, whose neighboring tribes mostly spoke similar languages, might experience less shock, others would not be the same. The greatest purpose of this journey is to let them know that I am neither a monster nor an idol, to testify through words that I am a servant of the Lord, and to make them neither misunderstand nor fear me. For now, I need to live properly first, don't I? Moreover, since I am the center of this community, making them accept me is also the shortcut to incorporating them into our community. And what's needed for that is this porter. This time, I pointed to the porter that had been moved to Chesapeake Bay. Vicente, who had seemed almost convinced, tilted his head again. Is that so? Of course. This steel body will show them where their iron tools came from. Also, won't we be able to provide a lot for them with the tools and cooking utensils we've packed here? Also, even though there are many forests and wetlands, most of our territory is not far from the coast, so we can overcome it sufficiently. Even if not, wouldn't we need to build roads for larger-scale trade and integration someday? By taking this porter around, we can also look for places suitable for building such roads. Indeed, this is by no means for my personal comfort, though that is part of it, of course. The porter will certainly make travel easier, and it will bring better results for our grand plans in the future, though personal comfort is probably the bigger reason. Well, I want to lie in bed, cool off with air conditioning when it's hot, and warm up with an electric heating pad when it's cold. I want to stay clean by carrying around a folding shower booth. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? It would be strange for a being called an angel or a spirit to go around looking dirty. It's all for the greater cause, probably. So let's plan our travel route with the assumption that we'll be taking the porter. Understood. Is this the latest map of the eastern North American coast that was produced? Yes. It's based on measurements made as accurately as possible with various equipment, so it should be correct. The map of America I'm holding is entirely from the 21st century, and the changes in the landscape over 500 years, as hundreds of millions of people cleared and reclaimed this land, are enormous. The eastern United States is now surrounded by forests across the continent, with native villages dotted among them. The undeveloped shorelines are full of wetlands and mudflats, and the coastline is incredibly complex. So to determine the route we'll take, using a 21st century map alone would be far from sufficient. Vicente cleared away a nearby coffee cup, carefully removed the map hanging on the wall, and spread it out on the desk. and I discreetly displayed a 21st century map of the United States on my phone, keeping it out of Vicente's sight. In this area, it would be better to move along this route. Is that so? Distance-wise, cutting across here would be better. That area not only has dense forests, but the ground is likely to be uneven. By examining where roads were built in the 21st century, I could suggest the route we should take to Vicente. Even if I couldn't know the exact terrain features, mountains and hills that were intact 500 years ago wouldn't have moved or disappeared without reason, so they would have built roads avoiding such places. Add to that connecting the residences of tribes that had agreed to participate in our intermediary trade. Is it done? It seems to be. Our travel route was complete. The estimated time required was 6 months. 6 months. This is a longer journey than when I went to Africa and the Caribbean to battle the Spanish Navy a few years ago. I suffered a lot on the ship back then. That's when I learned why sailing is a life-risking endeavor. I learned how hard it is to live for months on a cramped ship where the planks creak madly. Clean water is hard to find, and there are no proper facilities, be it a toilet or anything else. I'm never doing that again. Fortunately, I'm taking the porter. Thank goodness I built the camper. Looking out the window, I saw Raleigh and others coming. I put on a coat and said to Vicente, "Well then, let's pack our bags now." It was now March 1600. It was time to depart. The bonfire blazed, and inside the hut, many people were smoking tobacco and looking at each other. Last winter was the most comfortable and abundant winter among the dozens we've spent. And we've also acquired many sharp and good quality tools. All thanks to trading with you folks. It was nothing, haha. Your name was, what was it again? James. Yes, please call me that. Yes, James. A name that still doesn't sit well in my ears no matter how often I hear it. Haha. You'll get used to it gradually. Yes, I should. Where was I? You were saying that last winter was very abundant. Ah, that's right. That's right. Anyway, despite that, we still need to bring in more of that thing called potato. Food is scarce. Chapter 129. Great Spirit. 6. When the chief spoke to the man in priest's attire, a brief silence fell. Other tribe members clicked their tongues and shook their heads. Clap. Everyone. In the somewhat subdued atmosphere, the priest clapped his hands to draw attention and put down his tobacco pipe. This thing called tobacco really calms the mind. It makes the mind clear. As Father James rose to speak, the dozen or so tribe members in the hut raised their heads to look at the priest standing by the door. Beyond that door stood the trading post building recently built, with a small cathedral attached to it. And also something called a cart. Your lives will improve from now on. That's for certain. Do you know why? It's because Mr. Nemo blesses you. He has devised a business that will benefit everyone. As applause and cheers rose, the priest bowed his head and said to everyone, "Every time you bring furs of foxes, ferrets, and other various animals, the glass beads in this settlement increase. One more cat is added. More axes and iron tools will be created." Everyone listened to the priest's words. Indeed, this was the proper attitude of excellent members who had jumped straight to sapphire rank. The more you introduce our business to other tribes, the more benefits will increase. Remember, he is always prepared to give back more than what we send. Excuse me. Yes, please speak. A tribe member said, "Since we've obtained iron axes, could we take care of the Susquehannock tribe?" By take care, do you mean they don't serve the great Chief Nemo like we do anyway, so we'd like to settle the conflict once and for all. Would that be all right? The priest quietly smiled and took out a contract from his bosom. A contract written in both languages. If you look at the terms here, attacking other tribes through violent means risks rank reduction or contract termination. Ah, was that so? That's right. Didn't James tell us that from when he first came? That's correct. Rather than resolving conflicts with hostile tribes violently, trying to incorporate them somehow would be more advantageous for rising to diamond rank. Diamond, the highest rank one could reach, where one could receive not only various iron tools but also several guns for hunting. At that moment, ambition blazed in the eyes of everyone gathered there, and they nodded at each other as if strengthening their resolve. And then, still, more than other items, we need more of that potato. If possible, we'd like to know how to cultivate it. At the chief's words, the flames of ambition subsided somewhat, and a solemn atmosphere prevailed. We are too hungry to have ambitions. Even wanting to kill the Susquehannock fellows stems from anxiety that they might come to plunder us. I understand. Is that so? That's good to hear. We won't attack them first, but you should know. Our distress has not yet been properly resolved. There aren't many people starving yet, but who knows about next year, and the year after that? No one knows when this cold will pass. The atmosphere in the room, which had felt like a multi-level company's business presentation, suddenly became somber as if drenched in cold water. They were afraid. The fear that the hope they had just found might be extinguished again was growing behind them like the shadow of a bonfire. Could we make more of those? The chief asked, pointing to the cart behind the priest. Thanks to that, we've been able to transport more fur. After building roads for it, walking around has become a bit easier. Could we get more carts like that, carry more fur, and get more potatoes? Can you endlessly distribute food like that? Is your great chief truly that wealthy enough to feed all of us? Momentarily at a loss for words at that question, the priest opened his mouth and stayed silent before finally speaking. Of course, Mr. Nemo is very wealthy. Is that so? The more you increase items like that cart, the wealthier this tribe will become. Believe in your new great chief. And then, boom! The sudden loud noise cut off the priest's words. Confused people hurriedly rushed out of the hut to look outside. A bright light rose on the horizon as if a star had fallen. As people stirred, the chief quickly tried to calm them down. Vroom! When the noise grew louder, that effort instantly turned to foam. In the darkness, two lights like the eyeshine of a giant beast were blazing. And clearly, the sound was coming from the same direction as those lights. As the lights and noise drew closer, people one by one took out spears and stood guard. They couldn't even guess what it might be. Screech. Phew! Is this the place? Walter, is this right? At that single utterance, the tribe members' faces froze. Is it possible for one voice to speak multiple languages simultaneously? Or is it natural to shed the outer layers of language and convey only the pure meaning? Whether it's possible or not, it was a process unfolding before their eyes. And so, in front of the speechless tribe members, people who had disembarked from the cart surrounded the one who had just spoken, as if in reverence, and said, it should be. When we heard from the Lenape tribe's great chief, he said the land of the clan living here was the last member. Let's check the map first. They saw it. The bright light pouring from the two eyes of the strange cart. 5 or 6 strong men jumping out of the giant cart. Oh! It was something whose operating principle they couldn't even begin to guess. How do you do? I am Nemo. How do you? Nemo? Yes, that's me. And after the great chief shook hands with each of them, the dazed chief asked the priest, that. Can we make one of those too? As the chief pointed to the porter and asked, the priest couldn't say a word. Equals. Ugh. I stretched and quietly looked around. After driving on rough, unpaved roads for a long time, my whole body was screaming in pain. Moreover, I had been holding the steering wheel for days without anyone to take turns with. I desperately needed proper rest. After greeting those around, I entered the camper where a cozy bed and a half-read catalog were waiting for me. Flopping down on the bed and opening the catalog, I found various historical facts listed. Queen Elizabeth will die in 1603, ending her 44-year reign. The latter part of her reign was difficult. Those who followed her, including the Earl of Essex, plotted rebellion. Uprisings from the populace were incessant, and she lost popular support by depleting the treasury through prolonged wars. Walter Raleigh, after losing the Queen's favor, never restored his relationship with her to what it had been. After the Queen's passing, during the reign of James I, he faced open checks and humiliation, and was eventually executed on charges of causing an armed conflict with Spain during his exploration to find El Dorado. No, to be more precise, these were historical facts. Now, far from depleting the treasury, Elizabeth is earning enormous income from Virginia, maintaining support for the war. She is also successfully leading the war in Ireland, and in the war with Spain, she is achieving results in various places based on her strengthened finances. Raleigh, too, by suppressing his uncontrollable promiscuity with pouring work, never lost the Queen's favor. He built an incredible position by monopolizing trade with the New World, and politically, he enjoyed tremendous popularity, being called a saint by London citizens. Drake, too, took the supplements he received from me, took good care of his health, and didn't die from the fever, and the historical directions of other figures were also greatly twisted. Good. It's good, but I don't know what to do. Moving forward, most of the historical content written in the catalog is about Europe. Moreover, as time passes, the density of content decreases and omissions increase. In other words, my greatest advantage, future knowledge, is about to become useless. Considering the butterfly effect I've caused, it already almost is. The resource cheat was enough to feed hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people, but its limits were gradually becoming apparent. 10 years from now, when the population might have multiplied several times, could the unlimited resources based on my farm still function meaningfully? The characteristic of being immortal is similar. There are many curiosities but limited utility. For example, what if my body splits exactly in half like a planarian? Would it divide? If my neck is cut off, would the body regenerate from the head, or would the body regenerate from the head? Following the previous question, as depicted in various media dealing with immortals, is there a focal point from which my body regenerates? If so, if that is destroyed, would I actually die? Each one is extremely dangerous to test. In the first place, it's right not to be in danger of death, and the immortality cheat is just my last resort. I feel the importance of the means I had, the means I could have, gradually fading as the community grows and time passes. That's because I'm just one person. Even if I live forever and have unlimited resources, that clear fact doesn't change. Then, what will happen to me in the future? How will I live? Will my life really continue like this? What is immortality? A life that never dies. 10 years so far. Hundreds of years to come. Contemplating how I would live through that long period, I looked at the stars beyond the window. Perhaps I might live longer than those stars. Croton. There's a prohibition there that no one can casually enter. == Specifically, inside a certain mansion with a green roof. People only guess that secret, spiritual, and great daily activities of the angel take place there. But no one steps in. Because that would be blasphemy against the divine. In such a place, suddenly, after a long time, a sound is heard. Not a human sound, but a machine sound. Inside Kin Issei's most secret room, a sound coming from the computer. Click! It turned on without anyone's instruction. The cooling fan rotated, and various computing devices emitted heat, revealing something on the screen. Small phrases appeared there. Immortal one who exists beyond eras. Do not doubt your immortality. Your flesh shall not age. Your spirit shall have bright eyes that transcend ages. And you shall have eyes that avoid death. Click. Turns off again. Chapter 130, Vision of Doom 1. This is the area corresponding to the future state of Delaware. The people living here are the Lenape tribe, also called the Delaware tribe. We traveled all the way from the land where their great chief resides to the lands inhabited by various tribes under his command. Coming this far north, I notice people want potatoes as much as luxury items. Well, it's the north, so that makes sense. It's a land with a colder climate compared to Virginia originally. In such a situation, with the Little Ice Age approaching, conflicts are breaking out. I heard that there was talk of attacking the nearby Susquehannock tribe, but the priest dispatched to this region prevented it. I heard the same, but since the matter is already resolved, don't worry too much. I suppose you're right. It seems I've been needlessly concerned. Thank you, Walter. Not at all. I'm just glad to have been of help. I quietly looked around while listening to Raleigh's words. Yes, the people here are slowly learning to grow potatoes and also learning how to make carts and pave roads. With such low population density, if productivity increases, they won't go hungry. And even if not them, we will soon incorporate the Susquehannock tribe into our gift exchange network. Then they will be bound by a peace treaty of enormous scale, semi-forcibly, and conflicts will naturally be prevented. There's no immediate problem. It's been 3 days since we arrived here, but the situation, whether regarding food or anything else, showed clear signs of improvement from before. As mentioned earlier, the food situation improved as they imported potatoes and various food resources. In hunting too, by importing guns, they catch various animals that they couldn't have touched before. In terms of timber and various resource supplies, their productivity has greatly improved with iron axes, iron knives, iron sickles, etc., and their lifestyle has noticeably changed. These people, the natives here, won't face untimely deaths. They won't die for the reasons I'm thinking of. As I smiled contentedly, Raleigh moved slightly away to smoke tobacco. The white smoke rings carrying the harsh smell quietly melted into the night sky like dissolving sugar. Nearby, the river flowed majestically, and small lights flickered from the scattered huts around it. It seemed people were going to bed late tonight, probably because of the unfamiliar guests. Bonfires rose among the porter and other carts, and Lenape people and Virginians were sharing food and enjoying themselves boisterously. Yes, they won't die for the reasons I'm thinking of. Unless it's a hurricane. Yes, hurricanes, aren't they common in this area? Indeed, they represent the most destructive natural disaster in this region, causing billions in damage annually and reshaping coastlines with their tremendous power. Their seasonal patterns bring dread to coastal communities who must prepare for potential devastation each year. Hurricanes refer to tropical cyclones that occur in the North Atlantic, North Pacific, and other ocean basins, with maximum sustained wind speeds reaching 64 knots, approximately 118 kilometers per hour. These massive storm systems can span hundreds of miles in diameter, with some exceptional storms reaching nearly 1,000 miles across, creating weather effects felt far inland from coastal regions. The term hurricane comes from huracan in the Taino language, meaning powerful wind, and was spread by the Spanish and incorporated into the English vocabulary system. Hurricanes. Tropical cyclones like hurricanes form in the tropical convergence zone where trade winds from the southern and northern hemispheres meet. Inside this low-pressure system, heated air rises and forms a large amount of clouds, which begin to rotate due to the Earth's rotation. The intense thunderstorms thus formed grow or shrink influenced by various factors, becoming tropical storms, then developing into hurricanes causing enormous damage. What was I just thinking about? I was thinking about hurricanes. I was thinking about how the main difference between hurricanes and typhoons is location, and that they're called hurricanes if they occur in the northeast of the international dateline, and typhoons if they occur in the northwest. And I was thinking about how hurricane damage is so great because the water temperature in the North Atlantic, through which hurricanes pass, is higher than in the North Pacific. Also, the reason the North Atlantic water temperature is high is... I was thinking about how tropical cyclones, including hurricanes, help maintain the Earth's thermal balance by moving warm tropical air to higher latitude regions, but also damage ecosystems by moving salt water to coastal areas, and how natural coastal ecosystems like wetlands, coral reefs, and mangrove forests reduce hurricane damage. Snap. Gasp. What is this? For a moment, I felt knowledge buried in my memory rising up like vomit. It wasn't so much unpleasant as it was alien. That sense of alienation from my body, my head not running as it normally would. That alienation filled my head completely, then disappeared as if washed away. Where have I seen this? Right. The catalog. The content I read in the catalog about the climate of the eastern United States, mixed with content I had looked up in educational comics, popped up. But why? I try to recall when I feel nauseous, when I'm excessively stressed, when something is stuck in my throat, when my body is tense, threatened, afraid.
Walter, I'm sorry.
I suddenly felt dizzy. So? Walter. Huh? I looked to the side, and Raleigh wasn't there. Just moments ago, Raleigh was standing right there. He was smoking tobacco beside me. And looking at the sky, the stars and moon had also disappeared. Just moments ago it was night and dark all around. But now looking around, it was gray. It was as if the world had fallen into milk stirred with cigarette ash. Everything was hazy, and the atmosphere howled ominously. It was as if the whole world was screaming. Arg! And then a real scream is heard. As I stupidly turn to look, someone's arm flies away, like dust. I could only stare at the surreal scene. For a moment, I couldn't think at all. Mr. Nemo. Chapter 131. Vision of Doom. 2. At the sound of someone calling me, I turn my head. Raleigh runs up with bloodshot eyes and grabs my forearm. Are you all right now? Everyone is seeking shelter on higher ground. You must come too. Whoosh. Crack. About 2 seconds. The sound of a whistling wind. Raleigh and I turning our heads, until something flew and lodged in Raleigh's brow. 2 seconds. I embraced his falling body and slowly laid him down. Walter. It was the first time I had seen the focus leave someone's eyes so quickly. Lord Raleigh? Naturally, there was no answer. Thud. Something strikes my side, bringing me pain. But even that pain felt like a distant fantasy that made no sense to me. This makes no sense. Just moments ago it was night here. Raleigh was laughing and talking with me. He had a better future awaiting him than being executed by James I. He had days ahead where he would live in glory as a pioneer of the new world, as much as he had worked for me. Just moments ago, this place was. I unconsciously turn on my phone. The date appears. It was different from the date I remembered. It was the same as the last day we had planned to stay here. We had planned to stay here for about a month. This was where the last member tribe of the Lenape lived, so we planned to use this place as a base to contact various member tribes again. We planned to determine the locations of trading posts and cathedrals with them. And we were scheduled to leave this place. That was the original plan. That's how it should have been. Higher ground. He had said everyone was seeking shelter on higher ground. Looking down, the place that had been the village was completely submerged in muddy water as the river swelled, and our carts and porter were being washed away, half destroyed. I couldn't waste any more time. I carried Raleigh's body, his body still warm, and started running like mad toward a nearby hill. Walter, just wait a moment. We'll reach higher ground soon. I felt like I would lose my mind at any moment. I uttered meaningless words to Raleigh's body whose heart had stopped beating as I ran. I just had to. I had to. Mr. Nemo. It's Mr. Nemo. And soon, the voices of others could be heard through the fierce wind. In the distance, I could see people trembling and lying flat. They were too afraid of being blown away by the wind to move properly. I tried to move toward them. I tried to tell them I was safe. My clothes are soaked and clinging to my body. Raleigh's cold lips, now blue and parted, brush against my ear. The chill of death brushes against me. Goosebumps rise. But I had to go. Splash. I was walking toward the high hill when I soon encountered a shallow, wide stream. Looking around, there was no way to go around, so I gritted my teeth and stepped into the stream. Plop. Ha! The current of the stream, deeper than I expected, disrupts my body's balance. It was an instant. As my body tilted, I felt Raleigh's body slipping off my back. As I forcibly tried to grab him, my entire body fell backward. Splash. Walter. Walter's body is washed away in an instant. At the same time, I am plunged below the surface, and when I raise my body, coughing from the muddy water that entered my eyes, ears, and throat, a huge log was rolling toward me, struck my body. I momentarily lost consciousness. My body tumbled about in pieces like a broken toy, like a cotton doll with burst seams. The relentless current kept taking me somewhere. Every time I floundered, the heavy log caught on my body restricted my movement, and I sink to somewhere unknown. Everything is hazy. The water is both salty and tasteless. Fish are eating all sorts of things that lived on land and died, taking advantage of the chaos. And time passes. I suffocate, but I don't die. There was no more oxygen to sustain my body's life. My lungs were completely filled with salt water. But I don't die. My body becomes heavy and doesn't move. I couldn't find a way to escape from this cold, wet prison. My consciousness fades, but it never breaks. I don't die, and so I endure an eon of silence. Light that illuminates the world. And a voice. Are you all right? I open my eyes again. My respiratory system instinctively coughs to expel the water filling my body. Kuhak! Ha! And Mr. Nemo. But comically, it was a dry cough. As I struggled to breathe, Raleigh embraced me from behind and attempted the Heimlich maneuver as I had taught him. It was useless since there was nothing actually stuck in my throat. But thanks to Raleigh's action, I was able to regain my senses. I look around. The world is still night. With hands trembling like someone freezing to death, I take out my phone from my pocket and check the date. It was today again. And Mr. Nemo, are you all right? You suddenly staggered and struggled to breathe. I wanted to say it was nothing. I wanted to say I was fine. Whether because of my cheat or my mental strength, I could endure being stabbed in the heart with a knife or having my body cut to pieces. I could forget it quickly. But after experiencing that moment just now, I realize I won't be able to forget this for a long time. What just happened wasn't nothing. It wasn't a simple nightmare or hallucination. I gather again the fragments of visions and intense emotions scattered like vomit in my mind. Through them, I try to gauge what I saw, what exactly is going on. An immortal one. A very familiar voice echoes in my mind. You shall have eyes that avoid death. Equals. Raleigh saw his body suddenly staggering. He hastily grabbed his body as he was about to collapse and asked, Mr. Nemo, are you really all right? His breathing slowly calms down, and he meets Raleigh's eyes. Emotions rarely seen were lingering in his eyes, which were usually calm. Bewilderment and fear. As Walter was about to say something to him, he briefly covered his face with both hands, then wiped them down. Then the same peaceful smile as before emerged. But somehow, it was a smile tinged with detachment, unknowable sadness, and determination. Walter, what is it? He looks at Raleigh. I have received a revelation. Chapter 132. Vision of Doom. 3. I have received a revelation. What is a revelation? Revelation is a word translated from the Koine Greek apocalypsis, pi omicron kappa lambda upsilon psi iota, in the New Testament, also called apocalypse, in other words. Apocalypsis originally meant actions like opening a cover or lifting a veil. Its meaning expanded to generally indicate revealing something hidden. Throughout the Old and New Testaments, such revelations appear several times, the most representative being the Book of Revelation, the last book of the New Testament. And as is well known, the Book of Revelation exudes an eschatological atmosphere throughout its verses. Because of this, apocalypse, the English translation of apocalypsis, has come to signify the end of the world. Anyway, what's important here is that revelation is something that reveals what is hidden. Of course, in the Christian worldview, the existence and will of the omnipotent God are naturally revealed through the laws of nature, the unfolding of history, and human reason and conscience. This is also revelation, and theologians call it general revelation. But sometimes that's not enough. Therefore, occasionally God intervenes directly. To foolish and sinful humans who do not understand His will, God sends His representatives, angels or prophets. Sometimes He lets them hear His own voice or shows them visions. Various supernatural wonders may be revealed in the process. That is the revelation I claimed to have received. A message sent directly by the omnipotent God who created and rules the universe. Revelation, you say? I nodded at Raleigh's words. To Raleigh, I am the messenger and servant of the Almighty God. I am one who acts on behalf of God on earth, one who delivers God's messages. How would it sound to him when someone like me mentions revelation? Thud. He kneels before me as if his strength has left him. Quietly listening to my words, he whispers again. More than that, are you all right? I'm curious about the content of the revelation, but you were struggling to breathe just now. I'm fine. I didn't say anything else to him. I needed time to organize my thoughts. Revelation. Yes, I received a revelation. I don't know if it truly came from God, but there's no other way to explain it. You shall have eyes that avoid death. This voice still echoing in my head proved it. It's the voice that appeared when I first turned on the Immortal Order game screen. Also, it's the voice I heard on the day I first escaped from the Valley of Death. That voice was making my whole body tremble as it resonated using my eardrum. No, my soul as a diaphragm. I couldn't do anything but listen to that voice. Immortal One who exists beyond eras. Do not doubt your immortality. Your flesh shall not age. Your spirit shall have bright eyes that transcend ages. And again, you shall have eyes that avoid death. Yes, eyes that avoid death. What else could that just now be if not eyes that avoid death? It was too clear. In that vision, I faced a situation akin to death. Walter Raleigh died before my eyes. The corpses of many others floated on the river. I was buried in what might have been a riverbed or the deep sea, losing consciousness for what felt like an eon. It was a terrible moment. While Raleigh waited for me, I stood dazed and took out my phone to check the date. June 2nd, 1600. The date I saw in the vision was July 23rd, 1600. There's just over a month and a half left until July 23rd. Within that time, the people here can avoid death. If I lead them away from here, they can escape that terrible storm, and the people around me can survive. Literally, eyes that avoid death. What's the criteria? Can I see when people around me will die? Then why didn't I have this experience during the fight with the Spanish army? Why? Snap. I wiped my face with both hands, reorganizing thoughts that were drifting somewhere. For now, such details aren't immediately important. I can gradually learn about this new ability later. First, I have received a revelation. Raleigh, I have received a revelation. I am listening. And I saw numerous deaths that will pour down here. I saw countless people and beasts dying as the land and sky mixed into gray. Follow me. Pardon. Though my head was still throbbing, I couldn't stop walking. As I moved, Raleigh, though looking confused, quickly got up and followed behind me. So Raleigh and I walked through the bushes under countless stars in the night. We walked exactly along the path that I, in the vision, had walked while carrying Raleigh. I suddenly got goosebumps all over my body and looked back toward Raleigh again. Raleigh was alive. Yes, Raleigh is still alive. Mr. Nemo, are you really all right? Your complexion doesn't look good. As he examined me with a concerned look, I couldn't hold back and blurted out, Raleigh, I'm glad you're alive. Pardon. You are a good person. Yes? Ahem. Thank you. An ending befitting you awaits. I'm not sure what you mean. I won't let you die so pathetically. You'll know soon. The places where there had been streams and mud in the vision were all still dry land. Among them, I climbed a particularly high hill and looked around. Safe space. The space where people had taken refuge. I examined the soil there, the surrounding topography. I think about the storm that raged in the vision and the safety of this place. Would it be safe here? How can I know? Would the Lenape people who have lived here know? I thoroughly search through my memories wandering in the vision, and I think about how many people were on the high ground at that time. At most 6 or 7 people. They don't know either. They didn't know such a large storm was coming, nor did they know where to evacuate. Then, where and how can the people here evacuate to be safe? Only then do the corpses of many people floating on the river draw in my mind again, and then fade away. I constantly pace around, looking up at various high grounds, and I superimpose the recent vision on them. Someone dies. They die swept away by the current. They struggle and die in the debris of houses collapsed by strong winds. They are injured by debris carried by the strong wind, and they also starve to death isolated somewhere. And amid all those deaths, people crawl up to places the water can't reach, toward dry land where they won't be swept away by the current. Thump! This is the place. Suddenly my head clears for a moment. The screams echoing in my ears and the flickering images of corpses fade away. This place, Walter, is the evacuation center that will save people. At my call, Raleigh, who had been panting and following me here and there, raises his head while catching his breath. Our eyes meet, both still alive. I have received a revelation. Countless people will die swept away by water spray. What did you say? Countless people will die swept away by the storm. He, through a holy vision, showed me. Raleigh's expression hardens again, looking around with a bewildered expression. He says, "It's so peaceful. Did you say a storm?" "Yes, a calamity that will come in less than 2 months. Many will suffer tribulation. Walter, we, as those who have gained knowledge, have been given a mission. We must save those who do not know. Will you help me?" I spoke to Raleigh, and after a moment of confusion, Raleigh soon knelt before me with the same face as always and said, "As I always have, I will." And as soon as the next morning dawned, I gathered people. Leave for the place we've indicated in 50 days. Powerful storm will come. If you don't avoid it, everyone will. Chapter 133, Vision of Doom. 4. After throwing a few words to the villagers, we immediately left the village. After instructing others to follow by cart or on foot, or to escape via the coast, only I and a few people moved quickly by porter. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. Equals. It's there. They walked for a long time, passing through forests and hills, and when they reached a place with solid ground, he finally raised a finger and pointed somewhere. Vicente, though exhausted and panting, raised his head and looked up at his finger and the hill at its end. Evacuate to that place exactly 44 days from now. It would be good to dig into the ground from now and preserve food and water. You should be able to endure for at least 3 days. But isn't it too high and steep? Yes, that's why no matter how high the water rises, it won't dare to invade. He turned to the tribe members who were briefly protesting and spoke. Then people stirred. They whispered about how an outsider knew so much about the topography around the village, and whether the rumors that he was a spirit were true. Of course, unlike last time, they didn't throw offerings and ask for blessings as soon as they saw Mr. Nemo. Wasn't that what we came here to prevent? Vicente Manteo, come here. And I'd like you to mark these points by driving stakes into the ground.
Understood.
Before that day comes, everyone take refuge inside these stakes. It's necessary to protect your lives. When he finished speaking and looked around, everyone dared not add more words. Vicente had seen such scenes many times before, so it wasn't so shocking, but the locals would be seeing it for the first time. That tone of talking about future events as casually as if they happened last night. That attitude of walking without hesitation to places that even locals find unfamiliar, as if returning to a place he's been before. When that day comes, everyone must evacuate here and endure for a few days. Don't worry even if fields collapse and houses break. Your safety is most important. And that confident face. It was a facial expression that only someone who had no doubt about their actions could make. Are there no other shelters? It seems insufficient for all the tribe members to stay here. Seeing that tone, that attitude, that expression, no one could doubt him. Suddenly, the chief, who had been gruff, asking what this sudden evacuation was about, was now bowing politely and asking. In his eyes, looking down at the chief, there was a calmness and composure that seemed almost emotionless at first glance. After a moment's hesitation, he spoke. There should be. Let's look. And after looking around for a while, let's go this way. He starts walking toward somewhere again. Everyone followed him as if enchanted. His expression was still so calm. His behavior was as casual as if nothing had happened. Equals. I must stay calm. I must not show a different appearance than usual. I must not be frightened or fall into fear. Save me. Please. Father? My arm. Someone please find my arm. I must stay calm. I've seen dozens of calamities. I've seen thousands of deaths. But I must stay calm. Now I could roughly sketch the hurricane's path and lifespan. The hurricane weakens rapidly after July 24th. The method of finding out was simple. In no vision did the date exceed July 23rd. The voice said that this ability is called eyes that avoid death. Of course, it can't be my death. I am an immortal being. I experienced that point to exhaustion in the first vision. Then whose death will be avoided? The people around me. Even if I didn't yet know well what the limits of this ability were, what conditions triggered it, I could guess through process of elimination and inference. I've gone through several battles so far but never experienced this, so man-made disasters like war aren't included. I don't know why. Many people have already died in Virginia, but that too has never induced visions in me, so individual deaths or natural deaths don't count. Even when a large-scale epidemic swept through London, such visions didn't come, so it seems correct to assume it only shows what will happen around me. To summarize, it could be said to be an ability that detects deaths caused by imminent natural disasters around me. I'm still not sure about more detailed activation requirements, like exactly what is considered a disaster, or how close in space and time it needs to be for this cheat to activate. But that's what it is for now. Arg. And my leg is trapped. Please, Great Chief, help me. Where are you going? Great Chief, Nemo. Where? I see visions. I see countless deaths. I run like mad through them. I run following the direction people are evacuating. Cutting through thorny bushes, stepping in stinking puddles, I run. Thus, I find the safest place for people there. And, Mr. Nemo?
Monteo.
You spaced out again for a moment. Did I? Is it another revelation, as Baron Raleigh mentioned? I wake from the vision and move toward that place in reality as well. Countless visions of death continuously ravage my brain. Endless, horrible scenes unfold that make my limbs tremble involuntarily. In them, I sometimes drown, or I am trapped somewhere, restrained, or lose limbs. Still, I walk. If I walk, and keep walking, I reach that place. There. My head clears for a moment. The gray sky that was strangely overlapping with the clear sky of reality finally disappears as if washed clean, and the sun rises brightly. Seeing that scene, I am immersed in an indescribable sense of liberation. Earlier I said the name of this ability is eyes that avoid death. Also, I said that this ability is useful for predicting disasters. Then let's look at it in reverse. Places where the eyes that avoid death don't activate. Wouldn't that be places where there's no need to avoid death? No more death appears before my eyes. No corpses being swept away, no terrible screams heard. Is this truly a revelation? Something this painful and horrible? I just want to stay here, until the calamity ends. For a moment, I closed my eyes, then opened them. Then I saw people. They were waiting for me. Is it here? The chiefs of nearby villages look at me with worried eyes and ask. I nod to them and extend my hand to Vicente. Vicente then handed me my coat. I took step by step trying to leave the newly found shelter, and stopped at its boundary. I swallow. What's wrong? Are you all right? Vicente and Manteo ask. From a distance, I can see Raleigh looking at me with worried eyes. So I answer, it's nothing. I am an angel who has received a revelation. I must foresee calamities and lead everyone to safety. Therefore, I must give everyone certainty. I must not show weakness. I must stay calm. I must be calm. There are still too many people to save. There's no time to waste. As I take another step outside the boundary. Save me. Mother. There's too much blood. Spirits, ancestors. I see visions again. Still I walk. A storm rages in the clear sky. Chapter 134. Vision of Doom. 5. The date when I first saw the vision was June 2nd, 1600. The date I saw in the vision was July 23rd, 1600. Even with the simplest calculation, the result showed that a hurricane would hit this land in 53 days. And the Lenape tribe is a people spread across a vast territory from 21st century Delaware to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. This meant we had only 52 days left to evacuate them. 53 days. It might be an absurdly insufficient time to evacuate people scattered across a land larger than Shikoku. But it's barely possible. Most of them live gathered around the lower Hudson River and near the Delaware River, so if we move along the relatively flat land beside the rivers and the paths people have cleared, it should work. By that reasoning, we just need to travel a few hundred kilometers. Moreover, if we consider that surrounding tribes will inform other tribes of the crisis and evacuate them, the number we can save will increase further. That's how the journey began. Your great chief has come. Open the door. Great Chief. Mr. Nemo. Hurry. First, 3 or 4 of us, including myself, rush ahead in the porter. In any case, since we had already visited each place once, finding the way wasn't difficult. Next, I use my eyes that avoid death to look around and find safe zones where my head clears. Meanwhile, the others and those who arrive later by cart gather the villagers and inform them of what I'm doing and the impending disaster. Then we move on to the next village. The time spent repeating this work has already been 22 days have passed, Mr. Nemo. This means about 40% of our remaining time has passed. Looking at the date on my phone, which read June 24th, a sigh escaped. Manteo, how many villages have proceeded with evacuation? That, not even half yet. Exactly. Tell me the proportion. Only about a quarter. A quarter. At this rate, it means we'll need to spend 2 more months. Time is woefully insufficient. Moreover, considering that more tribes are scattered across a wider area in the future. Manteo and everyone, I'm changing the plan. Pardon. Manteo, stay here, and during the remaining time, urge the surrounding tribes to evacuate to the safe zone. But then Mr. Nemo will. I'll be fine. Please complete all the tasks here. Please just don't get swept away by the storm. After finishing our meal, I gave Manteo a few cautions and then walked straight to the porter. That's how short of time we were. Every moment, every second was precious. Our meals became increasingly simple and meager, and the interactions between us also kept only what was essential and concise. Mr. Nemo, before reaching the swamp ahead, you need to turn right to reach the next village. Thank you, Raleigh. And gradually we came to move in silence. I increased the porter's speed up to 60 kilometers per hour. On primitive roads with various obstacles and where wild animals and rocks could appear at any moment, it was quite a dangerous act. Mr. Harriet, I'm sorry, but I'd like you to stay here as well. I'm thinking of assigning you the same task as Manteo. But that would greatly increase the burden on you, Mr. Nemo. That won't do. I also object. It might be understandable if one person were to leave, but from the second person onward, I should be the one working hard. Isn't that why I took on the role of the great chief of Virginia? Mr. Harriet, please. Leave it to me. And when the porter's maximum speed was raised to 80 kilometers per hour, the empty seats increased one by one.
Vicente?
How is the situation now? It's still clear near this safe zone. There are rumors that it will rain soon, but whether that's true. What date is it today? June 30th. That's the date you agreed to disperse. Vicente, stay alive. Of course. Then Vicente as well. Thus, all the back seats of the double cab porter became empty. Vroom. Maintaining the porter's speed at over 100 kilometers per hour day and night became the norm now. Please listen. A storm is coming soon. This is neither a metaphor nor a scare tactic. Soon a storm will rage and might destroy this village. We've already had our fill of storms. They've weakened recently, so what's there to worry about? You should be concerned, Chief. Our great chief wishes it. Why? That's a good question. He wishes to save you all. Raleigh dedicated himself to spreading the news to surrounding villages, and I ran around like a mad beast everywhere, chasing visions. Finding places where my head wasn't dizzy or painful, where horrible visions weren't visible. Finding safe zones and informing the tribe members. And, Walter, I ask this of you, and please stay alive. Haha. I know it's silly for me to worry about you, Mr. Nemo, but still take care. Raleigh also got off the porter. I examined the map, the clock, and the date. I was entering the lower Delaware River, it was night, and the date was July 14th. I turned on the porter's headlights and drove. Under the unusually clear night sky, a yellow cone of light raced forward. Rattle, rattle. Not long after I started driving, I heard a sound from somewhere. At first, I thought it was coming from the car. Rattle, rattle. Again, a vibrating sound was heard. It was the kind of sound that unnecessarily made me tense. Rattle, rattle. Please. I briefly hit the brakes, trying to check where this unpleasant sound was coming from in the car. I let go of the steering wheel. At that moment, the sound stopped. Looking down at my hands, they were trembling. July 19th. The date seen on that day was July 23rd. Estimated hurricane landfall on the 22nd. 3 days until the hurricane's landfall. I spread out a 21st century map. Then I look at a tangled web of major mountain ranges, rivers, and roads that couldn't possibly exist yet. Cities that haven't been built yet are growing like blisters here and there, and roads and bridges that couldn't possibly exist now are stretched out like scars. But the scale and description of the topography were detailed and accurate. Of course, by 21st century standards. Flip, and then I unfold another map. It was another map drawn by me and my colleagues. Though it had a much less accurate scale and topographical description, at least it showed what exists now. It showed the villages that exist now, the sporadically broken roads that exist now, and the rivers, mountains, and all sorts of obstacles that exist now. Comparing the two, measuring with a ruler and overlapping them, I estimated the approximate distance to the destination. It was the result using the two most accurate maps of the eastern North American region on Earth. The result was 150 kilometers in a straight line. I can make it. It was a distance I could cover in a day. I can arrive well before dawn. The sooner I hurry, the better. With that thought, I stepped on the accelerator, and soon the instrument panel read 150 kilometers per hour. Though I hadn't slept for a week already, my body was still alive and wriggling. Even without looking in the mirror, I could tell. My eyes, completely bloodshot, repeatedly recovered and trembled. A steel beast heavier than any beast in America raced down the road at a speed more overwhelming than any beast in America. Wolves and various beasts wandering around trembled and fled at the sight of the fiercely drawn line of light. But I didn't stop. There weren't many road-connected sections to the coastal village, the destination village where the Lenape Great Chief resided. If I didn't speed up here, there would be nowhere else to drive faster. I step on the accelerator again to increase the speed. The car body trembles and screams, but I knew, after 12 o'clock it would be fine again. And with that thought, I overlooked one thing. It was night now, and I forgot that even though it was called a road, it was a road made by merely packing soil with crude tools. Crack. Until I heard that sound, I couldn't even guess for a moment what had happened. One wheel lifted, the car flipped sideways, and a low protruding rock was revealed to my eyes. Oh, that was all I could say. Crash. Soon the steel crumpled, the wood tore away, and the world shook. I was shaken madly, flipped, and crushed like a lump of meat being ground in a blender. Chapter 135. Vision of Doom. 6. When I regained consciousness, I couldn't even scream. Under the torn and bloody clothes, the intact flesh as always wriggled. Nevertheless, I couldn't move properly because of the pain. My body, which had moved calmly even when stabbed with a knife or burned by fire, had stiffened. Maybe staying up for a week was too much. Thinking such thoughts, I gritted my teeth and crawled over the broken window in front of me. Broken glass was stuck all over my hands, arms, and legs, but because of the pain that twisted my entire body, such minor pain actually felt refreshing. And, barely crawling out and looking back, I could see the wrecked Porter. Black oil was dripping from that huge body like blood. Somewhere, ominous friction sounds and dizzying burning smells arose. Oil, friction sounds, burning smells. Anticipating what would happen, I got up and stepped back significantly. Soon, flames arose and consumed the car body. Only then did it sink in. How far was it to the destination? About 190 kilometers left. Remaining time? About 2 days. And the car is burning in front of my eyes. I couldn't give any answer beyond silence to this situation. Soon, as time passed, the flames subsided, and each component of the Porter melted as if evaporating into the air, and then completely disappeared. Everything inside it too. It was midnight, now July 20th, just 2 days until the hurricane's landfall. 190 kilometers in 2 days. I unconsciously looked up at the moon, and looking around, I saw the residents of this area gathering here and there as if surprised. These were people I had already visited before, those who might not have heard the news of the storm from Raleigh, who was now in charge of this area. I knew well how I would appear in their eyes. One who commands a steel beast, one who crawled out of its dead body, and one who survived the entire process. Some were coming to pay their respects to me, but they were not my share. I trusted Raleigh, so I began to run, shaking them off. Some people tried to follow me, but they all fell behind, unable to match my speed. I ran like mad until they were out of sight. No, I ran even after they were out of sight. I ran. They say professional marathon runners run 42.195 kilometers in just over 2 hours, while average people run for 4 to 5 hours. Then what about me? How quickly could a person with a continuously regenerating body, disregarding pain, arrive? I didn't know, and in that not knowing I could place hope. Trying to check the time, I fumbled in my pocket for my phone, realized it was empty, and let out a hollow laugh. I had thrown it on the passenger seat of the car. I wonder if it's safely stored in my house in Crotone by now. I couldn't know my position, my speed, the current time, nothing. Just guessing the rough direction and path. I was simply running like a fool. Everything was dark. Even the stars were hidden by clouds and couldn't be seen. When the sun rose, my legs almost gave out. And when the sun set again, my whole body began to tremble. I fell many times, but small wounds were easily erased like water stains. Again, torn clothes mended and bloodstains began to disappear. I realized midnight had come again. July 21st. 1 day until the predicted hurricane landfall date. My legs were shaking. When I spat, blood pooled on the road, and my whole body felt like it was melting. Blinking my eyes again, all those abnormal conditions were healed. My heart was beating as if it would jump out of my body. My head started to ache and pain began to come because my body lacked water. And after moving a few more steps, the pain was thrown off again. I repeated this countless times. Visions of death passed by me, and echoes of pain pricked my nose, but I ran. I just ran, as if I had been running since birth. Muscles tear and regenerate again. Broken bones reattach and regain their former strength. Sweat pours like rain all over my body. Symptoms of dehydration approach all over my body, and then disappear again. I ran. I fall again, bleed, and clothes tear away. Still, I get up again, and I ran. I couldn't tell how much time had passed. My destination was just beyond that horizon, at the end of the vanishing point. I ran, until I reached my destination, until I could see the sea, the horizon. I ran. Rain falls. People gave up hunting or gathering and sat around in their huts, chatting with family or inviting neighbors for good food. But some people didn't stop going outside even amidst this rain, because the great chief would be arriving soon. They waited for the day the new great chief would return. He had said that their tribe would become purer than jade, and that nothing greater than them would remain except diamond. But in the meantime, they had persuaded more tribes to send gifts. Now they could become an even greater tribe. Now they could acquire more iron axes and various shiny luxury items. With such desire, people had been lingering and looking around more frequently for days. They wandered around like people who had lost a cherished dog, scanning the outskirts of the village for a long time. When would the great chief return? Shouldn't he be back by now? No, maybe tomorrow. With such expectations, young men of the village, including Sassanin, loitered around this area. They did so even though they knew that when the great chief came, he would lead several carts, bring that giant steel cart at the forefront, and come rushing at a swift pace. He would return with strange attire and with such a splendid procession. He would return with that reassuring smile of his. Look over there. Sassanin, who was patrolling the outskirts of the village today, saw a man walking slowly towards them, covered in wounds and blood, wearing tattered clothes, blinking his eyes and looking around as if trying to figure out where he was. And his gaze turns this way. Only then did Sassanin understand why his companion had called him urgently. He had returned. In a way no one had expected. With each step he takes, the wounds on his body disappear as if washed away by the rain. With each step closer, all sorts of traces on his body scatter into the wind. Sassanin. I remember your name. Call your chief. No, gather all the villagers. And as he raised his blood-covered face to look at the sky, the dried blood scabs on both his cheeks fell off. Again, the torn clothes stuck back together and returned to their original state. Like a beautiful snake shedding its old skin and revealing its true form. The young men gathered at the spot were astonished and called people together. He has come. He has returned. He was indeed not human. He was a spirit. A very great spirit at that. At those words, people gathered even on a day when rain poured heavily. Fearful and joyful, they looked at the man. Then the man points to a place. Over there. And people walked following the man. After walking aimlessly on a hill, he stops. He suddenly picks up a branch and draws a large circle surrounding them all. Then says, "At least until the third day comes, do not go beyond this circle." Those were his last words. As his tired, unfocused eyes closed. Thud. He collapsed. On the day he collapsed, heavy rain fell to a degree that made yesterday's calm unimaginable. On the first day that followed, a storm arose. People cowered in fear, bowing their heads and curling their bodies to the screams of the atmosphere. As the man had said, they ate the food they had brought, waiting only for this moment of terror to pass quickly. And on the second day, the wind continued. People saw the wind tearing through the village. They saw everything they had submerged in water. Throughout all this, the circle the man had drawn didn't fade at all despite the storm. It was just a circle hastily drawn with a branch. Out of fear, no one touched the circle. Even the children just watched, as if that thin line was protecting them. And on both the first and second days, the man just lay there. Finally, the storm subsided. The third day he had spoken of came. Chapter 136. Sacred Circle. 1. The third day had come. This meant 3 days had passed since the coastal villagers had evacuated to the inside of the circle drawn by a man. When morning came, people slowly woke up. After living without going outside the circle for 3 days, everyone showed clear signs of fatigue and exhaustion. As usual, they rubbed their eyes as they got up, exchanging greetings, asking if others had slept well or if their mouths had become crooked. They passed time with some small talk, tended to simple tools, and ate light snacks they had prepared in advance. Then they suddenly realized that when they woke up in the morning, it wasn't the same as yesterday and the day before. That when they woke up in the morning, they all woke up because they couldn't bear the brightness of the shining sunlight. Looking up, they saw the sun had reclaimed its throne in the sky, driving away the gray clouds. Looking around, they saw the world had stopped being a hazy mass and was regaining its separate colors. Looking at each other, they were all alive. The storm had ended. Everyone looked at the scene in a daze. They stroked the grass that had regained its blue-green color and deeply inhaled the air that no longer smelled of water and blood. Only then did people realize, they had survived. Everyone's reactions were different. Some cried thinking of their lost village and their companion dogs who must have died. Some gathered the food and tools they had barely managed to bring out and sighed in relief. Some embraced their children who had stopped crying and followed Sassanin outside the circle, stepping on the ground and becoming intoxicated by the sensation. Others sighed, worrying about lost property and how they would live from now on. And they were all grateful to have survived. Grateful for the blessing of life. They weren't fools, and they certainly weren't ungrateful people who didn't know kindness. That's why, from the moment they realized they had survived, people's gazes gradually began to converge on one spot. Those who had dispersed to briefly savor life gathered again around the man lying in the center of the circle. They looked down at the man. Looking down at the man who had slept oblivious to the world for 3 days, they exchanged various conversations and organized different thoughts in their minds. They carefully placed their ears against his chest one by one, and placed their fingers on his wrist. His pulse was beating. He too was alive. Not a single person inside this circle had died. They slowly lifted his body up over their heads. They carefully moved him, so that his sleep wouldn't be disturbed. Very carefully. Equals. As the cart raced madly and then braked suddenly, the entire body creaked and groaned as if it would break apart. While the coachman made a strained sound and looked troubled, the passenger hurriedly got off and ran. There wasn't even time to thank the coachman for his trouble. He ran breathlessly into the village. When some people who recognized him approached and waved, the man went to them and eagerly grabbed their hands. He? Raleigh, why are you like this? Please calm down. This is not a situation to be calm about. Him? Is he here? The man's, Walter Raleigh's, eyes were bloodshot. In the days just before the storm hit, he had gathered surrounding tribes to the safe zone and saved hundreds. People were grateful to him and gave him all sorts of treasures as gifts. But those countless thanks and gifts meant little to him. It was because he had heard shocking news. That large blue-painted cart flipped over and then flames erupted. When I heard the news and went to check in surprise, I could only see the ashes that remained after burning and rough wheel tracks. I saw the scene before that. He crawled out of the overturned cart before it burst into flames, and he ran away, though he was covered in wounds. Amazingly, those wounds seemed to heal immediately. A large blue-painted cart. He who was covered in wounds, but those wounds healed immediately. This was the story of him. As soon as he heard the story, Raleigh instantly guessed what had happened, and because of that, he hadn't been able to sleep properly for the past few days. As soon as the storm ended, Raleigh rushed south with a cart, and at the end of that roughly paved road, he saw wheel tracks that had roughly scraped the ground and burn marks. Traces of something burned remained here and there, but no other debris was visible. Raleigh could immediately picture what had happened. It had melted, the porter and all his other sacred tools. They probably returned to Croton Island. Thinking this, everything became clear. He He currently has nothing, just his bare body. He might not even have proper clothes. The thought gave Raleigh goosebumps, and he rushed for several more days. I'll ask again. Is he, the great chief of us all and not a human being, here? Please answer me. And so he came here. Raleigh's heart became urgent. The village was in ruins, and moreover, due to the semi-nomadic nature of the residents, not many stayed in the village, so there was no way to know how many had survived. Let alone knowing whether he had succeeded in saving this village. Raleigh couldn't even know if he was properly here. To such a Raleigh, the villagers, though perplexed, pointed to one place. His eyes fell on a large hut that had been temporarily rebuilt. It was probably the chief's house. Thank you. Without time to ask detailed circumstances, he gave a brief greeting and ran again. While running, he quickly arranged his hair and clothes and showed the proper respect to meet him. And as he carefully lifted the cloth covering the entrance, "Ah, Walter!" a man appeared. A man quietly looking at the stream of sunlight seeping into the dark interior of the hut, with a blanket covering his legs. As always, with a gently calm smile, he turned to look at Raleigh as if he had been waiting. Chapter 137. Sacred Circle. 2. He showed no sign of being flustered or surprised. Raleigh quietly kneeled on one knee before him to show respect. The clothes he usually wore were folded and placed beside him, and loose, light clothes that would be comfortable for a patient had been changed onto him. Although it would be difficult to find firewood with everything soaked, dry wood was piled high beside him, and the bonfire also seemed to have been neatly tended until just now. A couple of native youths seemed to have been providing something like nursing care, carefully observing his condition. It was evident in the way the people here treated him. You succeeded after all. Mr. Nemo had saved the people here. He simply smiled in response. Walter, I'm glad to see you survived safely through the storm. Are the others all right? I haven't been able to check yet. I see. And after emptying some of the warm porridge-like food handed by the natives, he slightly tilted his head after looking at Raleigh's face. Then, did you come here as soon as the situation ended? Why didn't you rejoin the other colleagues? Walter, you don't look well. What's wrong? Are you perhaps injured somewhere? Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left you alone. Can you show me the wound? I'm not injured. I was in the safe zone Mr. Nemo designated, so my body is fine. Raleigh shook his head and waved his hand to Nemo. And with a somewhat bitter expression, he asked, I know it's funny. I know it makes no sense for a mere human made of dirt to worry about a spiritual being. But are you all right? Pardon. I was just reminded of when you first saved me. It was still vivid in Raleigh's eyes. When assassins rushed at him, he stretched out his arm to save him, and instead received countless slashing blades while standing his ground. He could still picture that scene. The people at that place knelt before him, and covered in blood and wearing tattered clothes, he quietly moved forward to save yet another life. Every moment of that sacred scene was embedded in his mind and unforgettable. It would be more accurate to say that he couldn't forget it. But Raleigh could remember not just the sacred aspect of the scene, but something else as well. Others might not have seen it because they were too far away. Those who stabbed him with knives might not have seen it because they were too excited. But he saw it. How his fingertips trembled each time he was stabbed with a knife. How his brow furrowed and then relaxed again. When I think about it, it makes sense. Even an angel, when clothed in human flesh, naturally feels pain. Doesn't it? Yes, he feels pain. When he was stabbed with a knife and threw himself into burning flames, he felt the pain each time. Because he is an angel clothed in flesh. Is the pain somehow lessened when transmitted to an angel? He quietly smiled, then dismissed the natives who were nursing him and opened his mouth. What meaning would remain in the Savior's passion as he carried the cross, if you removed the pain? Many valuable things are obtained through pain. In other words, his answer was no. He feels the full pain. He feels the pain of flesh tearing, bones breaking, muscles twisting, and entrails being ravaged. He feels the pain of limbs burning, the body becoming dizzy, fingertips and toes going numb, and strength draining from the entire body. And yet, did you go that long distance with your bare body? This time he just smiled. So Raleigh raised his voice further. How did you do that while enduring all that pain? What does it leave you with? Who would expect to gain something while doing a good deed? Humans do. Yes, humans do. The desire for wealth and fame, the hunger for power drives them. Therefore, a human would want their good deeds to be widely known, and a human would expect their name to be exalted through their good deeds. That's what humans are. No one endures beyond a certain limit of pain to go that far. Isn't it painful? Why do you go this far? It appeared before Raleigh's eyes. The breaking porter, his body writhing in pain, the image of him running with a body that had gone without sleep for days. All of it appeared. That's not something a person, no, even an angel should bear. No one should bear such a thing, especially not the great being before him. Especially not him who had changed his life and taught him so much. He had already suffered enough, so why should he endure such great pain further? Is it because of your angelic duty? If it's because you're an angel, because you were created to serve humans and you're following that nature, then an angel's life is how terribly and painfully filled with. Walter. And as Raleigh raised his head, he smiled. Unlike usual, his smile was full of playfulness. What a foolish question. Angelic duty, nature, is not about such things. Why do you find it so difficult to answer a question that any human could answer? Pardon. It was an amusing joke if it was a joke. You run a trading company and have an excellent mathematician like Harriet as a friend. Surely you wouldn't fail to solve such a simple arithmetic problem. Did I say I suffer? He extended one finger in front of Raleigh. Yes, I, one person, suffer briefly. And, again, he extended all 10 fingers in front of Raleigh. With the suffering of just one, hundreds of lives can be saved. It's a great profit. It's 100-fold, no, 1,000-fold profit. Shouldn't one be happy to have made such a great profit? As a merchant yourself, Walter, you would understand how happy I must be. Raleigh couldn't dare to answer. Then he smiled. In this world, there are those who search all day for one lost sheep and rejoice when they find it. So, what's so extraordinary about making a small effort to save hundreds of people? One. And hundreds. Simple arithmetic. That arithmetic left Raleigh speechless. This isn't about an angel's nature or anything like that. This is about doing something because one can do it. This is just the natural thing to do. Again, that naturalness blinded Raleigh's eyes with light. Chapter 138. Covered in Blood 1.
Vicente?
Manteo, is everyone all right? Except for a stiff neck from sleeping in the cart last night. I'm fine. No, I feel refreshed. I'm sorry for being late, Mr. Nemo. The villagers kept asking us to stay a little longer. It's fine. That's also part of winning people's hearts. Everyone has worked hard. Soon, the scattered colleagues returned one by one. When I checked the personnel, I was finally relieved to find no one missing or injured. None of the Virginians had died because of me. In terms of material loss, the porter had flown away along with my carefully built camper, but it wasn't a big deal since I wasn't touring alone anyway, and the porter originally moved at the same pace as the other carts. My life had just become slightly less comfortable. Sigh, what a pity. My cozy bedroom where I could see the stars, a mobile kitchen and workshop. All that effort spent over months to build the camper had gone to waste. Well, can't be helped. I lost it because I drove recklessly. No one else to blame. Anyway, besides my inconvenience in washing, eating, and sleeping, there wasn't any major disruption. It wasn't the time to continue the tour anyway. We had already visited all the main places where misunderstandings had occurred, and I didn't plan to make this tour just once, so we decided to wrap up the tour here. Please provide axes, hammers, and various tools to the tribes that suffered damage. Let's ignore ranks especially for now. The priority now was to recover from the hurricane damage. Let's look at the situation with the Lenape tribe. Not only the tribes that had joined our gift exchange network, but also most of those who hadn't properly joined yet had survived. However, even though there were no casualties, they suffered great damage from the hurricane because most of their residences were located near water or in valleys. Their food situation had suddenly worsened as well. That couldn't be helped. What great possessions could people gather when evacuating in a hurry over a few days? At most, they would have had food for a few days and simple tools. Due to the hurricane, most of their grain stores and homes were submerged. There was no solution for survival. But one fortunate thing was, these ships seem like they could sail again with just a little time. What about the cargo inside? Is it all right? Of course. Everything is perfectly in place. That our docked ships and the cargo in them were relatively intact. Of course, there was substantial damage, such as broken masts or sunken decks, but Raleigh said it was at a level that could be handled locally to some extent. That's fortunate, Walter. Then I'll trust you with it. Yes. Walter? Your expression seems strange. Are you all right? I'm fine. And after submitting his report, Raleigh quickly passed by. What's going on? Ever since our conversation last time, he keeps making complicated expressions whenever he sees me. He seems to avoid conversation too. Did I say something strange? I just said it's profitable to save people while not dying anyway, something like that. That's strange? Maybe I made some other slip of the tongue? Well, probably not. Even if I made a mistake, he'll soon return to normal. Raleigh isn't someone who would easily distance himself from me. Anyway, what mattered was that the cargo in the ships was safe. And important cargo in the ships included glass beads, guns, jars. The pea potatoes are also safe. That's a relief. Let's start preparations right away. There were potatoes. Of course, there were many other luxury goods too. But as we went further north, food became an issue, so many tribes received food when exchanging gifts. And since we had come as far as Delaware, the remaining tribes were only those living in relatively high-latitude regions like New England and Canada. Therefore, it was natural that many potatoes remained to be given to them. Besides that, various tools such as iron axes, hammers, and saws that were originally intended to be given to other northern tribes flowed out. And they were urgently distributed under the name of the Member Tribe Special Disaster Insurance. Could we join too? We don't need to start at a high rank. We want to join too. Please accept us. There was also good news. Even tribes that had not been incorporated into our trade network had all suddenly joined after this incident. Moreover, as they had migrated to the safety zone, they decided to relocate to that area, leading to a kind of tribal absorption and integration. All of this was good news. The tribes gathered together. They were all incorporated into our sphere of influence, and one by one they searched for places to settle. Everyone, look at this. You split it into 4 pieces. Here, like this. Isn't it perfect for distributing potatoes? It was now late July, and since the potato planting season extended until late August, fortunately, they could start potato farming right away. Although the sailors and attendants who had come for trade unexpectedly began potato farming lessons, no one had major difficulties. These were things they had already experienced in the Virginia settlement. I hastily sent one intact ship south with instructions to give different gifts to the natives in the north, so others wouldn't starve even if we used the potatoes here. So the immediate food problem was somewhat resolved. Now we just needed to build trading posts and cathedrals for the trading post staff. Is this the site? After handling matters inland and returning, the bishop dispatched from Croton to the coastal village asked. Yes. With the help of the villagers, it's progressing quickly. This is the warehouse, this is the office space, and here, the cathedral will be placed. The cathedral site is larger than I expected. The location is somewhat remote. I asked out of pure curiosity. Our Nemo faction did not attempt aggressive evangelization toward the natives. If conflicts or disputes arose from that, the damage would come right back to us. So the cathedrals built at each trading post were nothing more than small prayer spaces for the 10 or so staff who would stay there. But this site, just looking at the pillars set in the ground, It seemed capable of holding at least 100 people. Why are they building it like this? And in a location quite far from the village? The tribal members in this area wanted it. Ah! Look at the floor. At those words, when I looked down at the floor, stones were laid in a circle, and small lines were engraved on top of them. Looking around, I saw that stones with such lines drawn on them encircled the cathedral site. Only after surveying this did I realize. This irregular line is modeled after what I had drawn. Inside that line was the safe zone from the storm that raged that day. Somehow it felt difficult to say more. A silence too valuable for me to break had settled around. Looking around, I saw flowers or shell beads brought by people placed near the stones with engraved lines. They had been placed there by people passing by. Anyway, about 2 months had passed since the day the storm hit. It was time to return to Virginia, late September and early October. When the repairs of the ships were roughly completed, we loaded the remaining baggage and boarded. As the amount of gifts received had decreased and quite a lot of cargo had been unloaded, the ships departed the coast smoothly with their lightened bodies. So, while looking at the horizon stretching to the left and the sun setting to the right, I was quietly sipping wine at the bow when, someone's footsteps were heard. When I turned around, the man who had been avoiding me all this time was standing slightly apart, looking at me. Somehow, my reflection in his pupils seemed as distant as the moon faintly rising in the sky, and the emotions that pooled and evaporated like shadows in every contour of his face created a complex ambience. Chapter 139. Covered in Blood, 2. Walter. At that, Raleigh carefully took the wine glass from my hand, brought it to his own lips, and then said, taking something out of his pocket, "Do you remember this knife?" It was a shoe knife. Before I could answer, the sudden aching sensation in my body made it difficult to continue speaking. In a way, it was a knife my body remembered. "Is it the knife that stabbed me?" At those words, Raleigh nodded and said, "And the knife that almost stabbed me. Do you remember?" Taking one step closer, he showed me the shoe knife and said, "You are the benefactor of my life. .. He had many names. The name given at birth and baptism was Walter Raleigh, a glorious name inherited from his ancestors. The nickname received from the Queen as her lover was Water, a name obtained because she couldn't pronounce the L in Walter well. Speaking of titles, Sir had been attached to his name at one point, but now he had gained a splendid new title as a proper territorial nobleman, Baron of Roanoke. There were also many other nicknames that countless people called him, filled with respect or contempt. A few years ago, after preventing the Black Death in London, he even received the excessive nickname of Saint. However, there was a name more important to him than all those honorable, miscellaneous, humble, and noble names. People, too generously, call me an apostle. One who is sent to spread the Lord's word. He cherished and valued that name the most. That name was not given by parents or lovers. It was not given by lords or the common people. You saved me, and you gave me a mission. That name was received from the one who saved him and reshaped his soul. You protected me from countless blades. Raleigh spoke softly, listening to the sound of waves around. Fortunately, only the two of them were there. The sun cast long shadows on them as it shone its final light from the west. I am a person saved by you. I live with a debt to you that I can never repay. To those words, Nemo only showed a smile that was somewhat enigmatic. Then Raleigh said, "That's why I must speak. I cannot understand. Why do you endure such great pain to save people? I am still confused, unable to understand that simple arithmetic. Why do you endure such pain? Why do you struggle so?" Raleigh had seen. When he took out the shoe knife, he slightly curled his body as if in pain. For a very brief moment, he lost balance and staggered. Beneath his detached face, the pains he had endured were stacked up, eating away at him. Putting the shoe knife deep into his pocket, he said, "No one living in this fallen world will be able to understand the simple arithmetic that Mr. Nemo spoke of. No, even if people like Noah, Daniel, and Job were to be reborn and live on this earth, I wonder if they could understand it. Suddenly, his speech, which had seemed calm and measured, changed as if he were speaking passionately. Yet even as Raleigh spoke with excitement, he maintained his composure. And he was about to open his mouth. At that, Raleigh brought his index finger to his lips and spoke again. "But I know what you're going to say. Do you?" "Yes, of course. That's simple arithmetic. Humans can never understand it, because it's not meant to be known and understood." At those words, Nemo's lips turned up slightly. Gaining confidence, Raleigh added, "It was not something to be solved by knowing and understanding, but something to be felt. It was something that could reveal and illuminate the answer through the most primal and noble light shining in a person's heart. Am I right?" Silence. And a smile. Yes, he was right. The teacher says he was right. Clutching his overwhelming heart, Raleigh continued, almost reciting, "People say that you can do such things because you are an angel, that you show us such lofty appearance because you are the messenger of the great Lord. No, those are nonsensical words of foolish people. In fact, everything you do, we too can do. We too can be as noble as you. Although we cannot have immortal bodies like you, although we cannot see the future, humans can be as noble as you." Then Nemo, raising his finger to the sky, added one sentence. "For when they shall rise from the dead, they neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels which are in heaven." Mark 12 verse 25. Indeed, that is so. Raleigh bowed his head and answered him, "We all can be as sublime as you. Very well, if you know that. But because we do not act so, you suffer." At those words, his smile diminished slightly. Raleigh slowly knelt on one knee and said, "Because humans act vilely, because humans do not reveal the nobility within themselves, you suffer. I am fine. I am not fine. Those who follow you are pained by your suffering. However, how dare I whom you saved, ask you not to suffer? How dare I ask you not to save people?" So, their eyes meet. Some flame burns from the souls of the two people. "Just allow me to reduce your pain." Nemo extended his hand. "Just let me act together at your side." Then Raleigh grabbed that hand. "So that people may become as noble as you. All my allegiance, all my passion, my lifetime, to you. Ah, you have truly come as a model for humanity. You are truly the messenger of the Lord." Thus Raleigh offered a prayer. He engraved that prayer in his heart once more. The chiefs of the Lenape tribe gathered to hold a meeting. Now, everyone here has received their own rank and become part of that Virginia community. That's right. How could it be otherwise? It was because they faced a problem difficult to solve within a single village or clan. They did not gather in the large village they always used as a meeting place. Similarly, they did not go to the newly constructed coastal synagogue. The place they headed was on a certain road, a place where ashes remained even after being swept away by the storm. They gathered there, each pitching a tent and talking. According to the testimony of many people, his sprint began from here. As someone puffed on tobacco and spoke, others nodded and muttered together. "Then, let's set up a milestone from here. We need to pave the road anyway to move gifts by cart. From here to the coast? That's not an easy distance. Indeed, that's why we need to build a road. 190 kilometers. Yes, it was not an easy distance. Someone ran that not-so-easy distance day and night. Thus, dozens, hundreds of people survived. Someone spoke again. If we set up milestones from here, how about establishing places to stay along the way for those pulling carts to rest? Someone else answered, "That's a good idea. Then the speed at which gifts are exchanged would also increase." Someone added, "This road is not just for gifts to pass. It's a place where certain memories that we should engrave as long as we live on this land pass through. Those who commit deviations here will be severely punished in the name of the entire tribe." Everyone nodded in agreement. Someone clapped and said, "At the end of this road is the sanctuary of the Master whom he serves. So how about we all walk there once? Perhaps to see the road building work." A moment of silence. One by one, the chiefs stood up. And after several discussions, the chiefs each led their light and heavy bodies and began walking toward the southern coast, following the path where a man had walked covered in blood. Chapter 140, Heretics. 1. The sea was calm, and the autumn air was slightly chilly but clear. The sky felt unusually high and blue, almost like an upside-down ocean. I gazed up at the blue sky before lowering my eyes toward the horizon. Islands and peninsulas were scattered here and there like stains across the blue sea. "Walter, exactly how far are we from Virginia?" "About 200 kilometers left." Indeed. What's the matter?" Finally, Raleigh is using meters instead of those cursed leagues, miles, yards, feet, and inches. I might not be an angel, but I am at least a righteous warrior who has defeated the yard-pound system. I did it. Nothing. It's nothing. I see your lips curling up slightly. Haha. You must be happy that we're getting closer to Virginia. Thanks to Vicente's comment from beside me, no one particularly wondered why I was smiling to myself. But if God exists, he would know about the greatest achievement I've left in this world. Anyway, after leaving the Lenape territory, we were circling around the Delmarva Peninsula, a peninsula in the Atlantic that belongs to parts of Virginia, Delaware, and Maryland, meeting various tribes again and returning to Virginia. The weather was bright and pleasant. Hard to believe that a hurricane had blown through this sea not long ago. The wind wasn't bad either, so we were moving at a decent pace on our journey home. As we were chatting among ourselves, the ship's captain approached us, looking through a telescope, and reported, "We'll soon be entering the territory of the Pocomoke tribe. Everyone should prepare gifts and get ready to—" Ha! Suddenly, the captain's body stiffened, and he turned to us like a poorly oiled machine, creaking. Then, in a metallic, high-pitched voice, he said to us, if we can call this stammering speech." I approached the captain, firmly gripped his wrist, and demonstrated deep breathing. Soon, the captain followed my example, took a few deep breaths, calmed down, and looked at me. "What's the matter?" I asked. Well, you see." The captain began showing the same reaction as before. What on earth did he see through that telescope to react like this? Confused, I snatched the telescope from the captain's hand and brought it to my eye, and I looked in the direction the captain had just been looking. Then, "Oh, what is it? What do you see, Nemo? Are you all right? Is something wrong?" "First, arm the crew on the deck." "Pardon." "And then arm everyone on the ship. Arm yourselves too." After saying that, I handed the telescope to the confused Raleigh. After looking through it, his expression became serious as well. "Oh, damn.
Vicente?
Remember where our swords are." "What?" "Well, we need them right now." "That's right." What the captain, Raleigh, and I saw was a ship. A European-style ship with unmarked sails, impossible to identify as friend or foe. They had already docked in the territory of the Pocomoke tribe where we were planning to anchor. Alarmed, we rushed ashore with chainsaws, knives, and pistols. "For Virginia." For Virginia? Ha! After confirming they were all familiar faces, we quickly put away our weapons. "Why are you coming out from there, Nemo?" "Wah! Nemo is safe." "Nemo? Where is Nemo?" "Where?" "Everyone, put down your weapons." They were all our settlers. "Everyone, what's going on here?" "And Nemo, how did you—" "We were on our way back from our tour. Now answer me. What were you all doing here?" Somehow the atmosphere feels familiar. Like our family dog pretending not to know anything after breaking my mother's favorite flower pot. Or like elementary school students turning their heads away, expressions that appear when people have done something wrong were clearly visible. Nemo? As I stood with my arms crossed waiting, someone hurriedly jumped off the unmarked ship, ran to me, and bowed. It was Oitoten? Is that you? Are you the leader of this group? Ah, ah, ah. More of a proposer than a leader. Yes, that's right. When does this guy not cause trouble? Anyway, well, no one got hurt, so it's fine. What's going on? Everyone? Why did you come all the way here? Could have been serious, but since nothing major happened, I'll let it slide. When I spoke with that attitude, Oitoten bowed his head with a relieved expression and said to me, to explain the situation, I should first explain about that thing that suddenly appeared one day. That thing? That thing. The blue, giant wagon. Ah, he was talking about the porter. And so Oitoten's story began with the porter. It was a peaceful day on Croton Island. Eleanor was in a good mood. Today, her Excel work was going much better than usual. Virginia hadn't been picky about food, and most of the patients who came to the hospital had only minor ailments. Having finished her daily routine, she was humming a tune while heading to a space permitted only to her and a few others at Nemo's farm, the logistics warehouse. Eleanor planned to transfer the information of new settlers she had organized and update the records of those newly born or deceased on the computer there. The surroundings were bright thanks to the special lighting Kin Issei had left on. Since electricity was unlimited and there were no electricity bills, Kin Issei's idea to use it freely was extending Eleanor's working hours into the night. So, thud, until midnight. What was that? Eleanor ran anxiously toward the direction of the loud noise. But there was no one, nothing there. Of course, at this hour, no one would dare cause a disturbance in this sacred place. But, then what was that loud noise just now? People were already rushing over with pitchforks and muskets, apparently having heard the sound too. Before they arrived, Eleanor thoroughly searched the surroundings. Perhaps a Spanish spy or something could be hiding in a place like this. And then she saw it. What? Why is this here? A blue vehicle, with 5 to 6 passenger seats and a spacious cargo area. The porter that Nemo should be driving up north was stuck in a pit, almost like someone about to be buried alive. People began to stir at the ominous sight. Most Croton residents had been around Nemo for over a decade. They knew well under what circumstances his possessions returned. When he could no longer retrieve them, or when they were too damaged to use or recover. Everyone looked at each other with dismay, unable to hide their expressions. Ominous thoughts lingered in everyone's minds. That strong steel body of the vehicle was crushed, torn, and terribly damaged to the point it couldn't move. Then, what about those inside? What about Nemo? Everyone was silent, and without holding a separate meeting, they easily agreed that this news must not leak outside the island. Eleanor? Are you okay? You're so pale. I'm fine. Let's get to work first. Are you feeling unwell? However, why the long face? It's nothing. You seem troubled. And nothing, I said. People outside the island weren't fools either. They might not know exactly what the Croton residents were hiding, but they could tell they were hiding something. Well, the truth is,